I broke my back.
What do you mean by that?
My back is broken.
What do you mean, calm it down? It's a fight. Referees telling two fighters who want to fight to calm it down. He should calm down.
So he's like a clown in his show, man. He's not your guy.
Tyson Fury's back, and all you motherfuckers are under attack. Look, Eddie Hearn can say all what he wants. Who gives a shit what Eddie Hearn says? It's garbage.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
Can you let me retire and be happy? Please, just please.
Bombs away from the Bronx Bomber!
Water! Let's go, baby! Let's go! I'm through. They put somebody else up and give me an interview. What are you talking about? You never give me a fair shake. HBO needs to fire you. You don't know shit about boxing. You ain't shit. You got shit. I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
I got dropped, man. Are you kidding?
No. You won the fight.
OMG. I am so excited.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up, MCR family? Another daily edition of the show live on YouTube. It's very good to be back here. It's been a rough couple days here for the city of LA, obviously with untimely passing of Kobe Bryant, his daughter, and the 7 other people that lost their lives in the helicopter crash. Obviously, rest in peace to those people. Prayers and thoughts to all the families and loved ones that are unfortunately affected by that tragedy. But it's good to be back on this show. I needed this show back with you guys, Rob and Gary. It's been a bad couple days here in the city of Los Angeles, to say the least. Everyone's in mourning. But digressing from that, a lot of boxing topics to get to, a lot of fights to get to this weekend to break down, and some actually really good fights to talk about, even though we have one YouTuber fight we're going to shit on probably, or at least I hope we're going to shit on. Rob, looking at you. A lot to get to on today's show. Without further ado, joined by UK Rob. Rob, how you doing, man?
I am full of coronavirus, so I advise people tuning in to put your face mask on. I'm all right. Just a touch of man flu. We'll get through it. Don't worry. But yeah, Thursday night fights coming our way. So yeah, we'll have to obviously talk about those. And the one that Matt doesn't want to mention, or if he does, in obviously a bad light. But yeah, just quickly on Kobe Bryant. Not an NBA fan. Would never probably even seen the guy play basketball, but I knew his name, and that's from what I could tell on Twitter. The world knew the guy's name, and that says everything. Obviously, a guy that done it all in his sport, and from what I've been reading since, he'd done a lot outside of the sport as well. So yeah, horrible situation, especially with one of the children involved as well, his daughter. That's it's just tragic, and yeah, thoughts to the family and anyone affected by it, because I've seen people that never even met the guy, really pretty cut up about this. So yeah, sad times, but I think he said himself, the show must go on and things like that. So we're here to talk about the boxing, and a decent card this week. Don't know what else we've got at the weekend.
We have some other cards to talk about.
Oh, there is? I didn't realize. What, is it Saturday?
Yeah.
When's the Super Bowl? Sunday. Oh, okay. All right.
We have the famed Ugas Mike Dallas card.
Oh yeah, my bad for forgetting that one. How could I? I feel so terrible.
How dare you, Rob? You should know better.
It's just the flu. It's just the flu. Obviously, I would have remembered this. Yeah.
But speaking of that card, Gary is going to it this weekend.
Speaking of Dallas, how you doing, Gary?
Gary in Dallas. Gary, how are you, man?
I'm hanging in there. I was a little out of it. Everyone in my house a little sick, but in tribute to Kobe Bryant, I'm gonna call up my inner Kobe and pull through this show. It's Kobe's name became synonymous with performing and pulling through in the clutch, right? Like he pulled a Kobe, right? Like just going beast mode. It's almost surreal, right? That someone that iconic is gone at such a young age. I remember when he got drafted '96, I guess it was. I mean, to think that that guy is no longer with us is a crazy thought. Superheroes aren't supposed to die. So thoughts and prayers to the Bryant family. That's got to be loss of a 13-year-old daughter, too. I mean, that's really unthinkable. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of topics to get into on a higher note, on a better note. Yeah, I'm going to go to Dallas. My boys Omar Juarez and Ray Guajardo are going to be fighting. So I'm going to go out there and support them, even though the card is not the best, obviously.
Shout out to you, Gary, man. You should be British. You support your own. I love it.
Be British.
You should. You've got that British boxing fan mentality. Support, man. I like it. Shout out to you. There ain't no way, even if paid for, I'd go to this.
You should be a Texan. You have because you waved the flag too. If there's any,
I was Texan, Gary. I'd say Tanahara is going to be a world champion too.
Well, it's just how many times over, right? We know that he's a world champion. How many times? How many weight classes?
Yeah, it's just divisions and multiple times unifications.
To Gary's credit, we've seen two guys in the last 12 months pick up belts and not fought a single top 10 opponent. It's possible. Tanahara could become a champion. Not fight anyone for that belt. Shout out to Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney. But digressing, let's get to the fights this weekend. Because there are some good fights this weekend. Not some great card, I should say, in the Ugas Mike Dallas card, because that just makes no sense. Why is it in Biloxi, Mississippi? Why that matchup? It just, for a list of reasons, that card's trash. But we're going to get to that in a second. And also how, before the show, I was thinking, why the hell is Gary going to it? And then I was reading down the list of names on the card. I was like, Omar Juarez. Instantaneously, I knew, Gary is going to this card. Of course, it's Omar Juarez, the future of Texas. But let's get to the marquee card of the weekend, because it's the best card of the weekend. There's no doubt about it. On Thursday, on the Zone for Matchroom, Andrade versus Keeler. Demetrius Andrade defending his WBO belt against Luke Keeler, who obviously earned that shot, defeating Luis Aries. Earning that shot, whatever that means.
Earning that voluntary defense.
But at least punching his ticket to a big fight, and the big fight being
yeah.
Because obviously being Luis Aries meant that he was going to get a big fight next. I didn't think it was going to be Andrade, but hey, good for him. Let's talk about this main event. Andrade should win this one. I should say in easy fashion, but I'm not going to say that. I think Luke Keeler is a tough guy. I think he's durable. I think also he cuts off the ring quite well for a guy that is a little bit basic, a little bit. He has a little bit of a lack of depth with his arsenal, but he's rugged. He is determined on the inside. He throws good combinations. He might give Andrade issues, but Andrade is a superior boxer in every way. I see him really outboxing Keeler here in probably a 9-3 type decision here. Guys, thoughts on Andrade Keeler in the main event of this card? Even though, as I said, the marquee card of the weekend, the top two fights on this card, not the best fights on the card. We're going to get to, obviously, the Roman and Tevin Farmer, Jojo Diaz fight in a second. But, Rob, thoughts on Andrade defending his belt against Luke Keeler, who's his second best opponent in the middleweight division to date, obviously behind Selitsky?
Yeah, it's tricky. Yeah, I'd guess so. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. It's weird. Certain guys can fight certain guys, and they get a whole ton of shit for it. I haven't really seen Andrade getting apart from the usual suspects online and stuff. I haven't really seen Andrade getting a whole heap of shit for this, and it's because people just, I don't think, are generally that bothered around Andrade. He neither excites people. Yeah, I don't think he neither generally excites people or is hated. It's just it's Andrade.
There's an indifference towards Andrade, and that creates a lack of hype, a lack of hate, lack of hype, whichever way it floats. There's just a lack of attention.
I think if he got the Canelo fight, people would kind of be like, yeah, it's Andrade, like on the Canelo front, like yeah, Canelo's fighting great. Who's he fighting? Andrade.
To play devil's advocate, are people more accepting of this matchup because Andrade has been trying to make big fights for a long time, and seems like a lot of those big names just don't want to fight him. And a lot of fans are maybe giving him a pass on a Luke Keeler type opponent because he's been trying to make big fights, whether it be with Triple G, whether it be with Canelo, whether it be with Charlo. He's tried to make the big fights. They just haven't wanted to fight him. And therefore, do we give him a pass on these matchups? Is that it as well? Is it a combination of the two?
Potentially, yeah. I think like maybe the hardcores understand the situation a little more. So, I mean, some do hate. It's like, oh, well, you got Triple G there. Why don't you just fight Triple G? Well, obviously that ain't happening, and he wants it. He's called him out in the ring. That doesn't necessarily mean the fight gets made. So, and then the casual fan probably doesn't know Demetrius Andrade. So, yeah. But yeah, we'll see. I think Luke Keeler will give him a certain amount of issues. I don't expect. Well, I think we can expect maybe like a 12-round decision. I don't know, but people have been critical that Andrade gets a guy in trouble and doesn't jump on the opportunity where he could get himself a highlight reel moment, a sort of semi-boxing viral moment, and really thrust his name into maybe getting those bigger fights. But because it's a long drawn out affair, yes, he looks great. If you appreciate that silky side, the kind of pure boxing, the sweet science on display, then great. You probably are quite an Andrade fan, but otherwise, he's not blowing people away in the moment when he's fighting, and I don't think people generally are itching to see the guy and who he's fighting next, which is a shame because he is a talented guy. But he said, like, "Are you going to come and visit me in the hospital? Are you going to look after my kids when I'm gone? So don't tell me how to sort of fight. I do what I do, and I'm good at it. And it's one of those. But in this industry, you've got to make noise.
And he doesn't
do it after a drab, slow 12-round decision and call out these big fights that are going to make you the big money, I'm afraid.
Gary, thoughts on the main event of this card, Andrade versus Luke Keeler?
I don't expect much except that we are going to the cards. We're going 12 rounds because this is Demetrius Andrade. I mean, he's not getting him out. I mean, that's not going to happen, unfortunately. Again, I think Andrade is really, really skilled. I think Andrade is skill-wise, he's as good as anyone. He just doesn't. He's turning 32 next month. Like, that got away from us quickly. Like, this is the end of his prime. Like,
he's done nothing with it.
He's done nothing with it.
Really. Not that he's done nothing with it. Nothing has happened in his prime, and that is highly unfortunate. Whether you want to blame him, other people, his promoter, because obviously he had significant promoter issues in the past. It's beside the point. He just wasted his entire prime.
Absolutely. I think we'll get another. He beat Salisky in his last fight. I mean, Salisky. Do you think Salisky's better, worse, or comparable to Keeler?
I think that it's a conversation. I would probably put Salisky above Keeler.
But comparable, right? Like,
it's comparable. Yes, there's a conversation. It's a conversation, absolutely.
I expect the fight to look kind of like that. I mean, I think Salisky will have a couple of moments here and there, but they'll mostly lose every round, and I think he'll get dropped early. And then after that, I'm so hoping that this is a fight where Andrade gets an opponent hurt and finishes him, right? Because it's going to have eyes on it just being near the Super Bowl. Do something good, Andrade. The talent is there. Just finish this guy. But he's not going to, right? Like, he's not going to. He's going to make it. He's got to go see the cards. Can't end the night early. I expect a dominant performance. I'll give Keeler 2 rounds. Matt said 3. I'll say 2 with a knockdown. So I say, what is that? 118, 109? That's my scorecard. I'm handing it in early.
Damn, we're predicting actual scorecards now. Crap. I can't do the math quick enough. But yeah, picking up on what you said, Gabby, I think, like you say, Super Bowl weekend is in the area. And I was just caught a little bit of the press conference earlier. Joe Markowski was mentioning there's a lot of like athletes in the kind of in the area buzzing around and flipping around, in the area. It's a big moment. And as much as you hate it, Matt, there might be a few extra eyeballs on this card because of the YouTubers. So it's a moment. That he could possibly seize, but is he gonna? That's the thing. So it's on him. If he wants to catapult himself forward, he's maybe got to try and jump on Keeler if he gets him hurt and try and force that stoppage. But because what is it like? Cat and Dockway knocked him down like four times
in like the first 4 rounds, and then just stopped doing
went, right. I've got a good cushion. I'm going to box this one out. It's like, really?
Let's see if I can run 10 miles in the next 10 rounds.
I think Cat and Dockway, he's returned. He's back in the win column. It's like this guy could have been done with. Like, do you want to fight on anymore? But I don't know. It's one of those. But I expect a pretty dominant Andrade victory.
And with the narrative of you have all these new fans watching this card because of Jake Paul, this main event is unfortunately a lot like the matchups from the first card they did of the Zone and YouTubers with Logan Paul KSI too, where the matchup is not meant for that section of fandom. It's not meant for the 10 to 20-year-old white male who watches anime, plays video games, and they'll listen to Eminem. Like, that's not, Andrade's not for them. Like, sorry to, tell you that. And unfortunately, an Andrade Keeler fight especially is not for them. If this was like Andrade Murata, because maybe that could actually really be an exciting fight because of the style matchup there. Maybe that could be for these fans because it would end up being an exciting fight, a la the Ramon fight, which we're going to get to. Like, those guys have no bearing for that fandom that they're attracting with the Jake Paul fight. But it's a super exciting matchup that's probably going to produce a fight of the year contender. So it doesn't matter. It will at least produce an exciting, entertaining fight for a bunch of people that have never watched boxing before. That's a good thing, right? Andrade Keeler isn't that, unfortunately. It's a lot like the first card they did when I went to, where the matchups aren't meant to produce exciting fights. And somebody should be there saying, hey, this shouldn't be the fight. But digressing, let's talk about that YouTuber fight. Jake Paul versus Anderson Gibb, whatever his name is. I don't care about that fight.
It's Big Nose backwards, just so you know.
I know what it is. I don't care.
All right, I'm just trying to pronounce it. Just say Big Nose.
Hold on, let me finish my introduction of the topic. Relax there, Rob.
Yeah, just say.
I don't give a shit about this. I hope they both get a double knockout and we can just move on from this bullshit. Because I really, really don't even believe the narrative that there's a bunch of new people watching this. Maybe some people in attendance because of their entourages. But I'll be honest, the people that are coming to this event, they've watched like 1 or 2 Conor McGregor fights. They've watched 1 or 2 like Floyd Mayweather highlights. They know what this shit is. They're not going to become a hardcore fan of this. They're a hardcore fan of Jake Paul. And they will watch and support what he does. If it was table tennis, snooker, boxing, doesn't fucking matter. So that's why I don't give a fuck about this fight or the narratives around it. Guys, thoughts on the co-main event of this card before we get to the actual good boxing fights?
I don't see people subscribing to the Zone. I think because of this co-main event, I mean, I really don't know. They haven't hyped this the way they did the other Paul brothers fight. I haven't seen commercials for it. It's the co-main. Look, this thing may be well attended to a degree because it is there with all the sports media and sports fans there.
And it's a small venue too.
And it's a small venue. But the Super Bowl is in Miami. It's not in, give me a city where there's absolutely nothing to do. Jacksonville. Like, you can find other things to do in Miami. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's plenty of things to do. There's bars and things to do all over the place. It's not like the year it was in Indianapolis, where Indianapolis is kind of a cool city, but there's really not much going on there. Or Kansas City, it's like, okay, I guess I'll go to the fight. That's what we can do. Mulva, you got no choice. I mean, I think the attendance might be well just because, but it's not. You're not utilizing anything. It's not like everyone there for the Super Bowl is going to go to the fight because, well, it's the fight before the Super Bowl. It's like, well, I'm going to go to the Clevelander instead. Like whatever it is you do, and I don't think that on a Thursday night you're going to get many, 10 to 20-year-old YouTube geeks watching this. I don't see that. So I just think this, and then you got Andrade in the main event, which is obviously not fun to watch for anyone. So this is just, it's a complete miss. It's like it's strike three on this. Let's just, and again, the non-co-main event, the Tevin Farmer fight, Joseph Diaz fight, is a good fight that I'm interested in.
Yeah, I agree. Excuse me. Sorry, Rob. Anything else you want to talk about?
Well, I'm not like
this fight.
I'm not like interested in it, but I just don't have the hatred that's. So I'm just like, whatever. Try it, whatever. I don't mind. Whatever,
It's a waste of fun. It's a waste of money, waste of our time.
Well, it's not wasting.
They're spending what? At least $1 million on this fight, probably.
I don't know. I think they kind of had played this one down. I don't know. I know
no, not each. $1 million combined. Like they're spending $1 million to put on.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's somewhere within that.
Yeah, I would assume, right?
Yeah.
Maybe in today's age, $1 million doesn't get you much, but in my mind, you put that $1 million into a nice undercard, a nice co-main event. Some of these undercard guys like Rahman, who only get paid maybe $200,000, you can really get yourself some really good fighters and some good fights for that, instead of a one-off that's gonna maybe get you a bunch of subscribers for 1 month that you're not used to. But I don't think that's even a real thing. I really don't. We have not seen any data produced from them concerning that narrative. We haven't. The data they released that we've talked about, in other segments, other videos you can check on the channel, that's been completely separate from this narrative of the KSI Logan Paul fight, that 3-month period, right, that they talk about. That you had Canelo Kovalev, you had all this subscriber growth.
Fight season, yeah.
And then you had KSI Logan Paul, you kept all these there, and then you had Anthony Joshua Andrade, you kept them all in. I want to see the data. Show me the data, because I don't believe it. I think this generation that the fans they're looking at for Jake Paul, they are streaming the fuck out of this illegally. Absolutely. Like when we talk about illegal streams for pay-per-views all the time, like when we back on Name Redacted, Rob, when we talked about like Mayweather McGregor illegal streams, right? It was like 10 million on like one site alone. Look, man, this generation knows how to find ways around paying for shit, and I guarantee you, the large section of fan base for Jake Paul and it's Allison Gibb or whatever his name is small. It's small. I mean, they're just streaming this shit. Let's be honest. They're legally streaming it. But moving on, let's get to a good fight. Tevin Farmer versus Joseph Diaz. A real interesting style matchup. Tevin Farmer, obviously more the defensive boxer, slick fighter, a guy that can really get on his toes, on the back foot, find angles, create traps. Really, I mean, I like the work Tevin Farmer does. He does get sucked into fights he shouldn't at times, and that's why he had some losses early on in his career. That's why he struggled against Jonah Carroll, in my opinion, because he can get sucked into a brawl, and that is a significant issue when you're faced up against Joseph Diaz, who honestly did that with Gary Russell Jr., who I rate as a better boxer than Tevin Farmer. Joseph Diaz was able to make that fight a brawl, was able to cut off the ring, was able to suffocate the distance, the range of Gary Russell, and was able to apply pressure and combinations. He didn't win that fight, but it was highly close, in my opinion. I think he can do pretty much the same game plan here and probably have more success here, because I don't think Tevin Farmer has the pop as Gary Russell does. I don't think he has the overall, I would say, strength that Gary Russell has. I think Tevin Farmer is a very fast fighter. I don't see him being a very strong fighter. And Joseph Diaz is a strong fighter. So if they get stuck on the inside, I could see Joseph Diaz definitely getting the better of the exchanges here and sort of wearing down Tevin Farmer in the long run. I'm going to hesitantly pick Farmer via split decision. I think this fight's going to be highly close, highly competitive. It's going to be one of those we talk about in terms of like what was your scorecard? How did you see it going down? And there'd be a difference of opinion on Sunday. But guys, thoughts on this, in my opinion, true main event of the card: Tevin Farmer versus Joseph Diaz.
You guys aren't going to like this because I don't think this fight's going to be fan friendly. I don't think Farmer is going to. He's going to hold up. He's going to tie up and hold. Not Russell, because you can see that he could hurt. He could hurt JoJo. He was willing to sit there and work on the inside. Tevin's not. He's gonna tie him up every single time he gets inside. And I think the fight's gonna be boring. I think you may even see Tevin get deducted a point for holding. But I think Tevin's gonna win most of the rounds. It's not to say that JoJo's not gonna have moments. He will win rounds. He will have a success on the inside. But it's gonna be so much holding that he's never really gonna get in a rhythm. And I think Tevin wins the decision 116, 112, 117, 111, something like that. Well, and then take a point away possibly for holding. Like, I fight like that where it's like this fight could have been so much more. Just Tevin didn't allow it to ever really materialize because of the holding.
I disagree with that before I get to Rob, because I don't see Tevin Farmer as a guy that holds a lot at all, really. Like, you look at his last few fights, he exchanges on the inside a lot.
He did with Joan O'Carroll, the French guy he fought. Every time he got inside, he held him. On the Hooker Ramirez undercard. Was that his left leg?
Yeah. I disagree with that assessment. I saw it as the French. I forget the guy's name. The French guy.
Got it.
Your countryman, Jesus.
Okay, the only countryman I care about is Obali, who we're going to talk about later. Okay.
Speaking of which, that's where a good $1 million could have gone. When you see what that purse bid went for.
Thank you, Rob, for bringing home my point. Thank you. You're right. Absolutely.
$500,000 would have got you that fight.
Can't believe it. But we're going to get to that. I saw that as the French guy really negating a lot of the action, not wanting to really exchange, not really wanting to be there. I may have to go back and watch that one more in depth than you, because I skimmed it.
Enjoy. Just take Gary's word for it.
But I don't see him as being as much of a holder as you do. But digressing, Rob.
I want to get back. If Matt's right, if he doesn't, I pick Jojo Farmer. I pick Jojo Diaz to win. If Tevin doesn't tie him up and hold, I think he doesn't have enough pop to keep him off, and I think Jojo Diaz stops him late. But I don't see that happening. But if Matt's right, I take Diaz.
Rob, thoughts on this fight, the people's main event?
Just out of interest for people, Matt asked the question via back room sort of chat, but Farmer is the minus 225 favorite, and Diaz is a plus 163. So reasonably tight odds on what I think is going to be a really good fight. I know what Gary means. Sometimes I think Farmer gets too comfortable, and then it's like he stops working a little bit. He likes to almost show that, look at my defensive prowess. Come on, try and get me, kind of thing. And he stops doing what he was doing. Sort of almost like a Josh Kelly sort of syndrome.
Andrade, Josh Kelly.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Looking good. Yeah. I can see why you're a world champion, or I can see why you're a sort of highly touted prospect. And then it's like this switch off moment, and you let the guy get back into it. And I kind of see what Gary's saying. I don't necessarily think. I think Farmer sometimes is pretty good on the inside. He kind of does that sort of Philly shit, gets in close, and he's kind of keeping his head out. The shoulder comes in and stuff, and then he does a little bit of work on the inside. But I know what Gary means. It might get messy at points in this fight, but also I think Farmer might take this reasonably comfortably. I think he's just a little bit better all round fighter than Jojo Diaz is, and I'm going to go with a Tevin Farmer, probably unanimous decision.
I will add, I think Joseph Diaz was far better at featherweight than super featherweight. I will add that. I think. Sorry, Gary, you were jumping there.
He was huge at super featherweight, and he could walk you down, but he can't really do that he doesn't have the physical advantage. It's like Munguia at 160. It's like that physical, and he's better than Munguia, but I'm just saying that physical advantage at 126 is gone.
No, Munguia's a good comparison where their size, their strength was such a huge factor in their former division, that when they moved up, it no longer became a factor and their overall game suffered. And I think Diaz really hasn't adapted to that issue, in my opinion. Maybe he will in this matchup. I don't know, because obviously I think Tevin Farmer stylistically allows Diaz to sort of fight his game a lot more than he has in other fights. But it will be interesting to see sort of does that size and strength carry up to 130 when we saw it really have play a factor against Gary Russell when Diaz fought him. So obviously I can't wait to see this people's main event. Let's talk about the hardcore's main event.
I was just going to say, like, and another thing similar, I guess, with Andrade is that Farmer isn't necessarily known for knockouts. And I guess the comparison, I mean, because of the two are kind of always on the move, not sitting down on their shots. So for those two guys, I would like to see when the time's right, do what you do, but when the time's right, really, sit on some shots and, try and get the guy out of there. But it's just the way they fight. It kind of is what it is. Maybe haven't shot to that kind of next level of like not stardom, but you know what I mean. That sort of more recognizable. Oh, that's Tevin Farmer. Did you see his knockout? It's like the usual answer to that question is no.
Now, to argue to them, I know they're not listening. Andrade, Farmer, and fighters like that. Josh Kelly, you brought up a fighter that we talk about often for just stepping off the gas pedal. Maybe not even go for the knockout, right? Because I think, like, you're not a knockout artist. That's fine. But go to get your opponent hurt at least. Drop him. Do something, because that will allow you to win a round easier. And for those fighters, winning rounds is their main priority, right? That's their main goal in a fight, is to win a round.
Yeah.
If I was a coach, if I was a trainer for them, I would try to sort of get through them that, hey, when you're in round 8 or 6 or whenever it is, and your opponent's starting to tire a little bit and you can hurt him a little bit, get him hurt. Because you can get a couple rounds in your bag, get a 10-8 maybe in your bag, and that will make the rest of the fight so much easier for you. All kind of like what Andrade did with Dubois. He just stepped so far off the gas pedal after the knockdowns that it didn't make sense, because he had him so hurt he could have went for the finish.
Yeah.
But digressing from that point,
like you say, if you've hurt the guy a couple of times in sort of, I don't know, say the 5th and then in the 7th, you might get that stoppage in the 8th or the 9th. You've dished out that punishment, and you might just.
And in these tough fights, like in these top fights, like with Diaz, where it's most likely going to go to a decision and a close decision, you need extra points in your bag. You need them. Maybe not a knockout, like I said, but hurting them at the very least, because that will swing it from a 10-9 their way to 10-9 your way instantaneously. Not even a knockdown, just hurting them. Not an extra point, but just hurting them can swing around your way.
And one judge might be watching and going, yep, Farmer just edged that one. Farmer just edged that one. Farmer just edged that, or whatever. But another judge might be going, I think Diaz done a little bit, but if you get them hurt and rocked a little bit, and you're able to land, quite a flashy combination, or even unlucky, like you say, a knockdown, there's no question about that round then. That's yours. And if you get it by a 10-8, you've jumped 2 rounds straight away. So
I want to exactly on that, because that's the way I felt during the Carroll fight. Like, I was watching that, and I gave a lot of the rounds to Carroll. When we got through the 12 rounds, I was like, he may have done enough. He may have done this. And then like the judges, I think one had it close, and the other had it wide. I was like, well, okay, well, but like there were so many rounds in there. Like, yeah, I think Carroll might have just done enough to eke that round out too. Especially the first 6, 7 rounds. Like, I was giving most of them to Carroll, but they were really, really close. And it's like, what did you like? If Diaz fights like Carroll did, now Tevin Farmer didn't respect John O'Carroll's power. John O'Carroll can't punch, right? I mean, I'm not saying Diaz is the biggest puncher in the sport, but he's a bigger puncher than Carroll. I don't think that Tevin Farmer will fight them the same way, right? If he does, guys, Jojo Diaz is going to win his fight. If he fights him the same way for John O'Carroll, Jojo Diaz is better than John O'Carroll.
But can we ignore that Joseph Diaz has been really ineffective and uninspiring at 130? I mean, I feel like it's an aspect of the conversation we don't like to have, but I mean, he has been really uninspiring at 130. I haven't seen one performance from Joseph Diaz in this division that made me go, yeah, he can beat Miguel Berchelt.
He can't beat Berchelt, no.
You know what I mean? And like,
he'd have to be the boxer in that.
And in comparison, Gary, when he was coming off that loss to Gary Russell, I mean, we were all there when that happened. Not there in person, but we were all around the community when that happened. the perception of Joseph Diaz rose significantly from that loss. It was sort of like a miniature version of like Sean Porter, Earl Spence, where like after the loss, people all of a sudden realize, oh no, the guy's actually a legit top 5, top 10 name. Even after the loss, that's how good he was in that performance. And then he moved up to 130 because I think the weight cut was tough for him, obviously. And he's been uninspiring. He has looked lackluster. At times, really doesn't have the power, doesn't have the strength that he looked like he did at 126. I think those are aspects to this matchup that are hard to ignore. Now, maybe you're right, Gary. Maybe it doesn't matter because Jonah Carroll was able to pressure, apply combinations to Tevin Farmer. And like you said, Joseph Diaz is a far better fighter than Jonah Carroll. However, I also know that Joseph Diaz has not really been that really, far better fighter in some time, it seems. And it's odd. When a fighter just seems to have digressed to some ability, I wonder why. A la the Charlos to a degree. I feel like that's a good comparison. And maybe not a perfect comparison, but a good one. But guys, any other thoughts on Farmer Diaz? I think we all agree it's going to be one of those fights that can go either way.
Very quick shout out to Andrade for wearing the shirt that he wore at the press conference today. Luke, I am your father. T-shirt.
That's nice.
I'm under the. I did one real quick. I'm under the conception that it's going to be a holding fest. You guys think it's going to be a fun Bull versus Matador fight, right? You guys think for a boxing fan, it's a fun fight. Not a fight, but it's a fun fight, right?
Yes.
Rob.
Yeah. I know where you're coming from with the holding thing, but I think it's not quite as excessive as you maybe feel.
I don't think Diaz allows it to be like that, to be honest. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see Diaz allowing himself to be held like that because Gary Russell couldn't do it. I don't think Farmer is that successful when he tries to do that, so I just don't see it happening.
The more I think of this, I'm thinking Diaz, might fight. Like I was like, okay, Tevin Farmer's just gonna figure out a way to win because he's a better athlete and he's more skilled. I don't know. Like I'm thinking like Diaz has a blueprint to win this fight now. Like, I'm gonna
right. What's your official pick?
I'm gonna stick with Farmer. Just like I the Josh Taylor fight. I'm gonna stick with that. But like my wheels are spinning. You know what I'm saying? My wheels are spinning.
I can tell you're twitching. You're twitching.
Let's get to the hardcore main event of the weekend and of the night. Daniel Rahman putting his 2 belts on the line against undefeated prospect Murjajan Akhmadiliev. And this is, like I said at the top, this has all the potential to be a fight of the year when we get to December of 2020. Daniel Rahman is what I like to call high-level basic, similar to, guys like Mikey Garcia, Joe Smith Jr., Jesse Vargas, guys that aren't an expert in any one aspect of fighting, but they are really fucking good in everything they do. Their fundamentals on point in everything. They're always balanced. They're never out of position. Their hands are always in the right place to either block parry shots, to throw the right shot back. I mean, Daniel Rahman is a perfect creative fighter. He's an 88 out of 100 in everything. That's a really fucking good fighter. Akhmadiliev, though, holy shit. He's one of those guys that he might be a specialist when it comes to his inside game. The way he works combinations together and flows from orthodox to southpaw and flows from outside mid-range to the inside effortlessly is just really amazing. Like I am really blown away by Akhmadiliev. I went back into a lot of tape study for this fight because I know that
knockout when the guy literally oh my days.
The power of Akhmadiliev. This guy could be something special. However, I could also see Rahman jabbing him up, working his fundamentals, and winning a very tight decision here. I'm gonna go Rahman because he's proven more to me. Zarate is the best guy that Akhmadiliev has beaten. Zarate is not a bad fighter at all, but he's not TJ Doheny. He's not that level of opponent, in my opinion. Daniel Rahman showed that he can adapt mid-fight as well in that performance. I'm picking him, but if he all of a sudden gets sucked into an inside game against Akhmadiliev, and by round 6, 8, whatever it is, all of a sudden those tides are really turning, and Rahman is sort of suffocating, don't be shocked. Don't be shocked at all. Akhmadaliev is that good. However, as you know, guys, when it's a prospect that's largely been unproven, fighting a guy that has been absolutely 110% proven, I'm picking the proven commodity 9 times out of 10. So I'm going to pick Daniel Roman here in a tight decision. But God, I love this performance, and I love this fight. And I think we're going to see amazing performances from both guys here. Guys, thoughts on the hardcores main event of this Andrade Keeler card?
I'm really into this fight. It's too bad that no one's going to be in the arena for this fight because it's 3 fights from the top. I'm going to go the other way. I agree with everything you said. Roman is like Bivol or Mikey. He's a skilled craftsman who's good at everything but not great at any. Akhmadaliev is great at one thing, and that's fighting on the inside. And Roman is too willing to sit there and exchange. I think this is going to be a barn burner, and it's fun. But I think Akhmadaliev's size and strength and power and inside skill wears him down and stops him. I'm going to say Akhmadaliev pulls the upset because it is a betting upset, right? Because no one really knows who Akhmadaliev is. It's not.
Rob, what are the odds? I did ask you for the odds of that too. What are the odds to this?
Danny Roman is the 2-1 underdog.
Oh,
wow!
What?
Roman is a plus 200, and let me just get the American version of what 11-4 is. Let me quickly.
Wow, plus 200.
Akhmadaliev is nearly a minus 300. He's nearly a minus 3
He's a 3-1 favorite right now. What?
I thought I was going with the upset on this one.
I was too. I was too, and then I looked.
Yeah,
I'm picking the upset. Ooh,
I'm going to take Akhmadaliev to break him down later. I'll say a 10th round TKO.
that's possible. Absolutely possible.
I mean, this is going to be a great fight. I think we can get a rematch, and I think if we do a rematch, Roman can make adjustments and outbox him. But I think on this card, I'm going to take Akhmadaliev to stop him late.
Is this mandatory?
I think it is. I know.
Oh, don't know if you're going to expect that rematch anytime soon.
How can you get to be a mandatory in 6 fights? I mean, whatever.
7.
7? This is a 7.
There you go, Gary. 7. So
There, man.
yeah, 6. I get what you mean, 6, but 7.
That would be ridiculous.
Yeah, I was thinking I was picking the underdog with Akhmadaliev as well. I've just got concerns over Roman after the injury.
Wait, hold up. This is the first time since Gary's been on that I'm on the outside and you, Rob, are picking with Gary.
Yeah, this is the funny thing. You thought you were picking.
I feel safe as hell right now. Yes.
No. The thing is, you thought you were picking the favorite. We're back in the 3-1 favorite. You're going for the 2-1 dog. I don't know what happened there. That's crazy. But I just got concerns over Roman and his injury coming back. This isn't a tune-up fight after an injury. So yeah, as uncomfortable as it seems, I'm going with Gary and I'm picking Akhmadaliev for the fake upset.
I can't believe he's a favorite. That is blowing my mind. I mean, there must have been so much. Was he Uzbek? Is he Uzbek?
Uzbek, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. There must have been so much Uzbekistan money thrown on him.
I don't know, crazy, but
I know he's a hardcore favorite, but 3-1's significant.
275. So
that's close enough for 3-1. I'm rounding up. Fuck it. That's. I mean, I can't think of another time in history where a guy that was like 7-0, like Akhmadaliev is, find a guy that's as in his prime still and proven as Daniel Roman, and people are just gonna write him off. I mean, or the betting line is the bookies are. I can't. That's blowing my mind. I thought Roman would be the clear favorite here, but hey, it should be a fun fight. Cannot wait. Also, Amanda Serrano on the card, fighting a late notice opponent. Because I think they just made the fight this week. It feels like, right?
Yeah, they got her a fight because her MMA thing that she was going to do Combat as Americas fell through. And then this is her tune-up for the Katie Taylor fight in April, right?
Allegedly. Yeah, can't wait to see what happens with her. Otho Jones, the third, also on this card.
Can I tell you something very funny about Otho Jones? You know, he's getting this thing of being like, he's really pushing DAZN, right? He's a real company.
Well, clearly, let's be honest here. Someone has access to his account that's either Matchroom or DAZN, because come on, man.
No. Let me tell
Come
you.
on.
Let me tell you the story and see if you think.
He's good on social media, but there is clearly someone else that has access to that account.
Well, he didn't make the instructional video of how to sign up to DAZN, because if anyone goes onto Otha Jones's account, find his little video. Chris Mannix spoke about it on the podcast. Oh, why aren't DAZN making these fighters make an instruct? If they've got a following, this is how you download DAZN. This is what you do. So Otha Jones went, I know. Screen record. I'll type in DAZN, how to sign up. He went to this bit, bookmarks. There's a he's bookmarked a video from X videos.
My man Otha Jones, man.
Yeah, man, the company man. He's doing it himself. As soon as that happened, I'm like, no, it's him. He's him. He's just being the company guy.
There's definitely some of it that's him. Some of the written, just pure written tweets, I can
think
tell
they're copying and pasting. I personally,
maybe it's just him doing that, but
yeah, I think so.
I don't like him doing that. Dude, come on, mix it up a little bit. But hey, X videos, good for you, Otha. You know what's up.
Yeah.
But moving on.
The title of the video, a little concerning. But anyway, moving on.
Tell me in the private chat what the title.
I gotta find it. I can't remember, but it was like, whoa. But anyway. Moving on
the taboo section.
Austin Williams is also fighting on this card.
Williams, Emma Williams. Also,
there's another female fight on this, right?
Alexis Espino. No, that's a guy. Who else? No, there's another girl fighting, is it?
It's just a Toronto fight, I think.
No. I thought there was. Maybe it's on the Texas.
Oh no. Sorry. It's at the bottom. I had to scroll down. Avril Matthew versus Angelina Hofschneider. I've never heard of Avril Matthew. She's undefeated with a draw, but I mean, I've never heard of her.
Yeah, no, I noticed that there was another one. She must be maybe a local girl, I think, or something. Miami maybe area. I don't know, but yeah, I just saw they've done a little bit of a push for being on the card.
Moving on to a card on Saturday.
Real quick, Amanda Soriano, is he the ticket seller here? Like, is he selling tickets to the Puerto Rican population in Miami?
No. I'll be honest.
On a week's notice.
Yeah, it's for week's notice. No.
You're on it for a reason.
I think as a favor to Lou.
Okay.
Because Lou's been very curmudgeon lately, and we're gonna talk about that. I like Lou, so like I kind of back a lot of what he says, but he's been, I think, a little bit surly to a lot of his co-promoters lately and networks, and I think
everybody, even the interviewer for asking a question. Holy shit!
And I think that they kind of wanted to for him to relax, probably behind the scenes, if I'm guessing. And I'm assuming that there's a real working relationship with Lou Serrano and that team and DAZN trying to get that Katie Taylor fight, because they clearly want that fight in the U.S. But anything else, Gary?
So do you ever look back at Serrano? Like, she's got a loss. It must have been years ago. Who beat her? Because she is so good. Like, besides Clarissa Shields, she's the best woman in the sport. Like, who beat her? Like, how did she lose? It had to be real early in her career, right?
I mean, you're triggering a lot of our UK listeners by not including Katie Taylor as number 2. So I'm just not going to step into that hornet's nest. I don't care. Because I mean, like, I'm a huge Stefan Pursoon supporter, so like, I'm not even going to step into this one, guys. Moving on,
gold medal for Belgium coming up.
Yeah, I saw that. Good for her. I mean, if she can't get the big fight, because it looks like she's not going to get the big fight, and you know how women's boxing is. If you can't get that big fight, you're off TV. You're not getting paid at all. Go get an Olympic medal, sort of improve your leveraging
for even less money.
I don't know if it's for less money. I mean, I know, like, what's his name? The cruiserweight in the U.S., Gary. No, amateur that fought like forever in the amateurs and made like a living out of it. Cam Awesome.
Cam Awesome. I was gonna call him Awesome. Cam Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, you can absolutely make a career out of being an amateur boxer. Now, it's not you're not making a ton of money, but you can absolutely make a living doing it. Absolutely. Especially maybe in other countries where it's more of a like they put more money into their Olympic athletes in terms of supporting them. Moving on, let's get to the Saturday card, also on TV. Is this one on Box Nation?
I can check the schedule, but
just to let our UK listeners know if they're able to watch this card.
Yeah, let me check my Sky Sports planner and if I've got enough disk space to record this one, or should I just not?
Hey, Omar Juarez is fighting the card, but Adonis Ugas fighting Mike Dallas in Biloxi, Mississippi, because no one ever thought that. No comment. Michael Rivera is fighting on the undercard. Jesus Alejandro Ramos, Dion Nicholson, Omar Juarez, Burley Brooks, Ray Gerardo, Michael Coffey, and John Racon, not one of the Racon brothers, as Gary educated me before the show. And they're all fighting guys, people. So, guys, thoughts on the fight?
UK, we have got this fight.
This is a next-gen card, if I've ever seen one. It just is on Saturday. And I just, like, God, put these FS1 US next-gen cards on Friday, please. Don't put them on Saturday.
And if people, because it'll obviously be Sunday morning for us. If you want to Saturday night get a little bit of boxing, they're repeating at 7 o'clock in the evening. Saturday night, Garcia Red Catch. But it's up to you.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to sit through that for a second time. That's what I'm going to do. And then I'll watch the Hurt fight again too while I'm at it, because that was a barn burner.
Yeah, it'll be the card.
You know what's funny is that the Hurt Santana fight actually was kind of fun. It was just like, why the fuck are we watching this right now?
So stupid and so bad. I can't believe he would fight like that. Like,
he's trying new stuff out. He's
do it in
new trainer.
Gym. Like, do it in a sparring session. Like, that was ridiculous, Rob. You want to defend that? Go ahead.
Swing it back to Ugas, Mike Dallas. I mean, look, this is like one of the worst cards of the year, if not the worst card of the year. You had Garcia fighting Ivan Redcatch a week ago, and Ugas fighting Mike Dallas now. They should have just fought. Like, I don't know why we're doing this. This is a waste of our time. It's good for all these undefeated prospects to get some FS1 time, I guess, some TV time. But you could have consolidated some cards here and make better fights, a better product for the consumer, and also not put a bunch of fighters you want to promote in Biloxi, Mississippi, who, like, look, I'm not a hater of Mississippi. It has great barbecue there, great food, but it's Biloxi especially. It's not a fight town or a media market of any sort. So why would you put any fight there that's going to be on TV in front of 70 million plus? Theoretically, it could be in front of 70 million plus people on FS1. Why? Why do that? Like, what's the thought process behind that? And we're going to get to the Lou DiBella interview later on the show when he really goes after the industry right now. And I have a lot of thoughts about why we keep getting this bullshit. And me and Gary have talked about it as well before in the past. And I think we even clipped out a video. So if you want to check it, I think it's even in our featured video section as well. So if you want just to find it a little bit easier to find it, it's right there on our YouTube page. But like, the modern age of promoting and how networks handle boxing is just so backwards. And it's clear that there's no one steering the ship.
I want to say Roy Jones Jr. fought in Biloxi. And Santiago will probably check me out. I'm pretty sure he did, because it's like he's from Pensacola. That's all the Gulf Shores. Like, Biloxi's right on the water. So it's probably only an hour and a half drive from where, if that, it might be an hour. But whatever. It made sense for him to fight there, kind of, because I mean, I don't know that they have arenas that he could sell out in Pensacola, Florida. I don't know about that. But like, putting this fight there makes absolutely no sense. I mean, obviously they're getting a site fee from the casino, which is why they're doing it. But I mean, this can't draw. I mean, I'm Ugas' biggest fan, I would think, right?
You're one of them, yes, for sure. Yes, you're definitely the captain of the fan club.
And if Omar Juarez and Ray Guajardo weren't fighting on this card, I mean, I would have no interest in it, right? So, and I don't know how many people from Texas are making the trip over to Miss. I mean, it's drivable. You could do it. I just don't know how many people from Texas are going to go to this card, which they loaded with Texans. So, I don't see him selling any tickets. The rating is going to be abysmal because Ugas is a great fighter, but no one likes him. No one's a fan. Ugas is my favorite fighter. Said no one ever. So,
and it's not that. It's just like people don't know about Ugas.
And Mike Dallas, you gotta be kidding me. This guy was a prospect 10 years ago. He got iced by Matisse in 1 round. Who else did he lose to? Does anyone have his box record?
I'll pull it up.
I want to say John Molina, maybe. Like this guy. No, I mean, 10 years ago, you would have said at 140, they would have been 2 prospects on the come up. You would have said, okay, this fight makes sense. But Mike Dallas is you guys will see on Saturday. Mike Dallas.
He has 3 losses. His first loss wasn't Matisse, by the way. That was actually his last loss. He lost to Josito Lopez and Mauricio Herrera in 2011.
That's what I'm saying. 10 years ago, he was a prospect.
And then lost to Matisse in 2013. Had a draw with Dusty Harrison in 2016. Has fought once in 2018 and once in 2019 against guys who had losing records.
So,
and one of the fights was in Tijuana, in a place called Pierre's Bar, which I would tell you
everybody knows your name.
Well, which I'll tell you is not the actual Cheers Bar for those that were maybe confused.
That's in Boston, and it's owned by Sam Malone, former pitcher for the Red Sox.
Fun fact by Gary of the day.
That was the basis of the show. But
so the moral of this story is sometimes you just want to go where everybody knows your name, but they've took it to Biloxi, Mississippi.
So his best win.
Excellent.
His best win.
You want to go where everybody... Oh, excellent.
Don't sing it. We might get copyright.
Oh yeah, I've got a cold. They wouldn't know that way.
Confirm his best win is a draw against a prospect who I don't think is fighting anymore, right? Dusty Harrison doesn't fight anymore. When was the last time he fought?
His best win is a draw. I love it. That's like Wilder, though, right?
I don't know. I'm not going to click on Dusty Harrison's record. I don't care.
He was a prospect. I think he's from Connecticut. So he was a prospect at a point. But then he fought Mike Dallas to a draw and said, maybe I should find another line of work.
I'm actually curious now. What has he done? Hold on. No, he's fought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Actually, he has a fight scheduled.
Does he really?
Yes, in Tyson's Playground in Vienna, but it's in the U.S. Where the hell is that?
Tyson's Playground. Oh my god.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go, Gary.
Yeah.
Anything else, guys? Any other thoughts on Ugas, Mike Dallas, or?
No, I won't be tuning in live on Box Nation. I won't be looking at it the next day on Box Nation. If anything of note happens, it will be on Twitter.
Also, coming up in the boxing world, you can't find this on TV or streaming, but it is happening. Alunga Makabu is fighting Mikhail Salak for the WBC Cruiserweight title this weekend in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Is it not on Impact? Is it Impact where Caleb Truex picked up a victory this past weekend?
Was that on Impact TV?
Was it Impact or some new network or some shit?
I don't think it was because they didn't say it was on Impact when I looked at the schedule.
Maybe I got the wrong network, but I think it was on somewhere. And shout out to the 412-pound heavyweight that was on the card. Holy crap.
Was he really 412 pounds?
Yeah. he dropped the opponent first and then guy got up and knocked the big guy down. And legit, if he's down, a 412-pound man isn't getting up after 10 seconds, even if he hasn't been hit on the chin. Let's be honest.
What a 412-pound man look like?
Like,
hold on, quickly. Let me get back to a fight that matters instead of a 400.
Oh, my bad.
Man, that we don't even know his name. Alunga Makabu is on a good little 5 or 6 fight winning streak right now. Obviously, this fight is in his country, even though it's the Democratic Republic of Congo, which has a litany of social and human rights issues right now. This is an important fight for the cruiserweight division, especially if Salak wins this. He's a good fighter. He's an undefeated prospect right now. If he beats Makabu, he's a proven top 5-ish commodity in the cruiserweight division. And a new name we talk about that could fight Briedis, Dorticos, Glowacki, and others that,
Totally.
Oh.
I thought you were naming belt holders or future belt holders.
No, because Okoli wouldn't be on that list.
We'll see.
Moving on to news of the day, guys, unless you have any other thoughts about fights coming up this weekend.
Nah.
Okay, let's get to the news.
Head out to Tyson's playground to check out that Dusty Harrison fight.
It sounds like a really scary place, even though with the word playground in it.
I do not know where it is at this point.
And I'm always suspect of European named cities in the US. Like Paris, Texas. Like, no, you're a lie. Go away. We just need to just drop a bomb on the town.
Is there an Eiffel Tower in Paris, Texas?
I don't know. Is there? No. Gary, no.
I thought I'd ask the Texan.
But anyways, moving on.
Bigger than the actual one, right? Typical American shit.
Moving on to news of the day. IFL interview Eddie Hearn, where he declared Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury would take place not in the UK, but in Saudi Arabia. Let's listen to that interview.
I'm sure the UK fans won't want to hear this, but there's whispers going around that from Fury's side that Joshua Fury won't happen in the UK.
I can't see how it does.
So I can understand that.
I just can't see. I mean, for me, it should happen in the UK. And if there's a way to do it, we'll do it. But the problem is the money that could be... Because the government here don't invest in bringing mega events to the UK, they don't necessarily need to. Now, they've got a Premier League football game every weekend that's selling 50, 60, 80,000. But other countries, whether it's Nigeria, whether it's Congo, whether it's China, whether it's Saudi, whether it's Qatar, whether it's Abu Dhabi, their government and their tourism department has a huge pot of money that they're looking to bring major events, entertainment acts to showcase their country to the world as a tourism destination. So, and you can't, I know it's easy. Like someone said to me the other day, what was it? Oh, that was it last night. Someone just messaged me and said, for fuck's sake, Eddie, Saudi Arabia, just who cares about the money? Just, you're so greedy, just do it in England. It's like, do you think that I go up to the guys and say, guys, you can make 150 million each to do it in Saudi or 40 million in the UK? But Dave on Twitter from Rochdale says, you're a cunt and you got to do it, excuse my language, and you got to do it in England. It doesn't work like that. Have a brain, So, and it's not even that the fighters are greedy. If it was the difference of 10 million each, but it's not. It's double to go somewhere else. And it can't be ignored, especially a fight like that. So it's a one-off.
What about Vegas? Do you think MGM could compete having Joshua Fury with the Saudis and Dubai's, etc.?
No, is the answer. But I think that it's a case of they're probably the only people, along with a huge broadcast fee from DAZN, or if all of a sudden it does become a 2 million pay-per-view fight. But what we found from the Ruiz fight is the subscriptions were so high on DAZN, and it was out of the country and on what is supposed to be a poor time. So what we're actually finding now is that it doesn't really make too much of a difference where that fight is. And from a UK perspective, the Saudi fight broke the revenue record and it was on at 9 p.m.
So that was Eddie's statement about how AJ Fury will not be in the UK. It will be in Saudi because they'll make, theoretically $150 million each compared to $40 million each in the UK. Guys, thoughts on this? I'll go to Rob first because obviously this is a UK versus UK fight. That's about whether it be in the UK. Your opinion matters more than me and Gary's to a degree. So thoughts, Rob, on what this would mean to British boxing, to the scene over there, to the fans over there, the consumers, thoughts on the idea of AJ Fury not being in the UK.
Yeah, it would be a real shame. I know we're going to get to Ludabella going crazy, but he said the future of British boxing, in his opinion, what was it? Lennox Lewis is the best British heavyweight of all time. Joshua and Tyson Fury would come right in behind that, and to not have an all British heavyweight, because let's remember this would be for the undisputed.
Yeah, in the theory that Fury beats Deontay Wilder, has the WBC belt, and then goes fights AJ.
Yeah,
how do you not make that fight in the UK?
Yeah. So yeah, it'd be huge disappointment, but I get that. Look, these guys are prize fighters, and they're going to go for the most amount of money possible, and all that kind of thing. So it sucks, but I get it. But I don't know. It would be a real shame because that would be absolutely massive here. And I guess I see business wise that the last Saudi fight, it was like 9 p.m. here, so it's still like in a prime time slot. So the pay-per-view buys would still be
completely fine. Yeah, it's not
all fine like that. I get that, but yeah, it would be a real shame if this went elsewhere. And just so you know, that kind of offer was also if Wilder wins it, it was kind of, he was saying it's the Wilder Fury winner, really. But the question was framed around Fury. But yeah, an all British UK heavyweight, undisputed championship of the world in Saudi Arabia. It just sounds so wrong, you know. It should be Wembley Stadium. That's the kind of the biggest place we could do it, like venue, like physical venue size. Unless you opened it up to like it was Hyde Park or something like that, and you had to a ring in the middle and get as many people in you as you can. But yeah, it'd be a real shame. It really would.
And to talk about that, obviously and I'll go to you, Gary, because I just this does really bother me. Obviously, Eddie, that the monetary gain that one night for AJ and Fury, especially because they're going to collect the lion's share of the revenue, because that's how just boxing works. The top fighters do make the large percentage of the revenue. Of course, it's in your interest as a promoter to pursue that avenue. It's in their interest as your client, in a sense, to want that avenue. We get that. But this is when it comes down, and I wish maybe we like, in a sense, start talking about that Lou DiBella interview. Maybe that just intersects all throughout the show, because that interview just really sticks to me right now. You almost need someone that is, in Lou's words, he said, a quality control. I would say like a steward of the sport. I know it's a much more romanticized way to phrase it, but you need someone that is thinking long-term about what is best for boxing. Whether they are working for Sky Sports, whether they're working for Matchroom, whether they're working for DAZN, you need someone in those facilities, in those meeting rooms, in those boardrooms saying, what is best for this sport? Because maybe what's best for this sport is still going to make all of us tens of millions of dollars. Maybe does not make us $100 million. It's still going to make us tens of millions of dollars. And the side effect of us doing the right thing for the sport is that it becomes healthier, becomes more of a viable business long term. And then the tide starts rising and all the boats rise with it. Okay, the way we get back to the 1980s, where in the US you had guys like Corey Spinks fighting in front of 20, 30 million people on CBS. The way you get back to the age of maybe the Chris Eubanks and the Nigel Benns of the world, right, where everyone in the UK watched those fights. Everyone, right, is you promote the sport to its best ability. You make the sport to its best potential. Okay? And a all UK showdown with, in my opinion, sorry, Lennox, but these two heavyweights right now mean more to probably boxing as a whole, but especially the UK scene. Okay? AJ and Fury are the biggest UK heavyweights ever. Period. For them to fight each other in Wembley in front of 100,000 people and in front of the entire country coming together, because even though they would do it to a degree if it's in Saudi, it would be a different temperature in the country if it was there. Same with, honestly, AJ Wilder. If it was in Wembley or New York or Vegas, it would feel different than if it's in Saudi. Like that, I feel like that's just obvious. And not just in that arena, but like in the country as a whole, the perception of it would be different. It would just have more meaning to it. And to make the biggest heavyweight UK showdown in history a little bit less than what it could be is deserving to the sport. Maybe it's not deserving to you guys' own pockets that night. I get that. I get how business runs. But someone in this industry needs to be thinking about the sport first. And no one is. Okay? And this is the type of matchup that clearly someone's not thinking about the sport at all. They're thinking about their own goddamn pockets.
I mean, Lou DiBella says, doesn't he? He says, like, if I'm Eddie Hearn and I say to Joshua, and Joshua says, just go out there and get me the most money. And I ring Bob Arum. He said, just make the fight where it's going to make the most money. He said, I get that. That's been.
I get it. No, I get it.
Yeah. I'm just sort of backing up what you're saying. He said, but because he said something like, but Eddie said, I don't see it. It can't be in the UK. And he's like, why? Why can't it? Why can't it be in the UK? And then he went down, like I say, the whole route of Lennox Lewis. He said, for me, is the best, but whatever. And this would be absolute. And like you say, this country, it would have almost like when the England are in the World Cup, right? Mm-hmm. We get on this whole journey throughout the tournament, and we're getting it, and it's like football's coming home, it's coming home, and there's just this whole, I don't know, feel good feeling like we're in the semi-finals or the quarterfinals or something. And then we fall short, but it was like, what a ride, it was like we were, but the whole country's like on the same page. And like you say, just because it's a fight and it's boxing, and maybe it wouldn't be quite as big as obviously football, but you would get that, I don't know, that sort of whole nation there. But if it's out in Saudi, it just takes an edge. Even though, like you said, I said, we can all tune in at a usual time, pay-per-view money.
It'll still break records, but it's not going to have the same.
Yeah, it's just not quite the same, and it would be a real shame. I know I get the Eddie Hearn defender and the Matchroom defender and this, that, and the other, but I can't sort of defend like this. It's got to be. If it's Wilder, if it's Fury and Joshua, Wembley Stadium, 100,000 people, there would be parks around London with big screens. With thousands of people there, people having barbecues and fight parties and this. Instead of like, a Joshua Pulev, there's going to be your usual crowd, the usual amount of casuals that tune into Joshua, around the million, in it. But this would just capture, I think, even more of a wave, because it'd be all over BBC News, Sky News, ITV News, every single news channel. Whereas a normal Joshua fight, it gets that, but not to the level of that would. Tyson Fury and Joshua, it'd be huge here, absolutely huge.
It would do 4 to 5 million pay-per-view buys.
I mean, I don't know quite about that. Maybe
combining like BT numbers and Sky, it does 4 to 5 million.
Maybe that's, to me, maybe a stretch of people actually purchasing it, but you'd have households with like 10, 20 people in it. True. So figures, maybe that many people actually watching it. And like you said earlier, people know a way to stream it. Most people, when you look on Twitter, no one's paying for a pay-per-view, and yet it always seems to do 1 million buys. But I don't know who's, they're not paying for it. I'm not paying for that. I'm not paying, but they all got an opinion on the fight. But yeah, it would be absolutely massive here, and it would be such a shame for it to land elsewhere, really. Yeah, I mean, Gary, what do you think?
At first, I thought that it was impossible to not have this fight in the UK, right? Like, you got the two biggest names, two biggest fighters in the UK fighting each other. But then I thought of something, right? You had the two best Canadian heavyweights.
Wait, Gary. We just had the heir to the throne. I just wonder, hopefully he's less, pessimistic about everything, less doom. Look, he's there. Check it out. He's made his dad smile. Look at that.
There's a human being in that.
Yeah. That stone does actually pulse, right? But yeah, carry on, guys. Sorry.
So it got me thinking about that, right? Like, but then there was a similar fight. They were the two best Canadian heavyweights at that time, Lennox Lewis and Razor Ruddock, and they didn't fight in Canada. So I mean, I guess it's possible to put this fight somewhere else, right? I guess like there's a precedence for that. They've actually put that fight in England between two Canadians. So that was kind of weird, right?
Yeah, well, they're only Canadian when they lose. That's how we feel about Andy Murray, the tennis player. He's British when he's winning, and he's Scottish when he's losing.
That's so fucked up.
I thought of that, right? And then I thought of, wait a second. Lennox Lewis fought Frank Bruno. That had to be in Vegas or Atlantic City, because I was in the United States because I watched it. But then I looked it up, and that was in the UK. So I was wrong about that. How was that on American TV? I remember watching that fight.
Was it on HBO?
Maybe.
No, you occasionally got a UK fight on HBO or Showtime. You did.
this was one of them because I remember,
like for example, like we got. Remember when we didn't get the first car for Out George Gross, we got the second one. Remember, and that was a big deal, right? On HBO, we got that on HBO. So it did happen in the old paradigm occasionally, but it wasn't a normal thing.
yeah, I just it wasn't the U.S.
Yeah, it was on HBO.
I remember watching it, but there you go, Matt.
Because wasn't at that time Mike with Showtime, and Lennox was with HBO. Because then eventually they did fight, and that was the HBO. That was the first time HBO and Showtime worked together on a pay-per-view.
Yeah, but this is before. But this is after Riddick Bowe threw the belt in the garbage, right? When he fought.
Yes, this is after.
Mike Tyson was actively ducking him the first time.
Yes.
Ducking Lewis, yeah, and then he got to
so.
BC, but yeah, because Mike Tyson had to give up one of his belts. Mike Tyson had unified two of the belts, the WBA and the IBF, I want to say.
But digressing, Gary.
Okay, relevant. Again, I still think this fight's going to happen in the UK. I mean, there's got to be smart enough people in the room that said this is great for UK. Look, if we make a little less money, it's a long-term investment, like Lou said. Someone has to have that whereabout. Like I said the same thing about Teofimo Lopez. Put Teofimo Lopez, because they were talking about putting that fight in Saudi Arabia. Teofimo Lopez versus Vasily Lomachenko. No, you want Lopez to be a star. You got to put this in the Garden. If you want to put another fight in Saudi Arabia, then do that. But this one, this star-making performance where he can dethrone Lomachenko, that's got to go in the Garden. It's got to, because if he wins, he's a star. New York City is his hometown city. He's got to win that fight there. He has to have a star-making performance there. This fight is massive for the UK. It's got to be held there. I don't care if you lose some money up front. You're going to make it back when you make the star a pop culture icon.
And on top of that, to use the narrative they use for all these bullshit YouTube fights, think about all the kids that are going to be in attendance watching that fight and all of a sudden be inspired to be either A, the biggest hardcore boxing fan ever and buy DAZN and all the match and pay-per-views in the world, or they're the next fucking AJ. That's what those moments, that's what those fights are for. Those moments are real. Like that narrative works for those fights, not for bullshit YouTube fights, but the real big, super mega fights that we see, those cross-generational fights, that transcendental matchup. Yes, those actually have that narrative working where it creates new fans. It creates new people that want to be a boxer, be a fighter, because they see it at the highest level when it's purest and it's best. And if AJ Fury is in Saudi, it's not its purest. It's not its best, just because of the location shift. Sorry, back to you, Gary. I know I interrupted you. I apologize.
No, that was basically my take on it. I understand it may be more upfront money in Saudi Arabia, but you know what I'm saying? Like Ludabelle said, you don't put the Super Bowl in UAE, right? Maybe, you know what I'm saying? Like it has to go there. And I think the long term, but again, no one has a long-term outlook on boxing ever. You know, when you were putting all these fights on pay-per-view back in the early 2000s, this is why you killed the sport, because no one outside the hardcores were going to, as great as Morales, Barrero 2 and 3 were, and they were great fights, you're not getting the casual fan to spend $60 at that time to watch those fights. So it was only hardcores. So you shrunk.
Compared if that was in the 80s and 70s, that'd be on ABC or CBS or NBC, you know.
Right, and 30 million people would have watched as opposed to 300,000. Now, I'm sure more people watched than 300,000, but that's how many people bought it.
Yes.
You know, it's damaging to the sport, right? Like, so I do think that they will put it in Cardiff, or they'll put it in Wembley, or whatever. Wembley would probably be where that fight would go, right?
They need probably the biggest venue possible.
Because you can't put sports outside in London in the winter, can you?
No, come on.
I don't think so.
I wish I didn't even have a job in the winter, Gary.
You can't be outside in the winter when it's period.
It's been pretty mild actually this year. But yeah, you don't want to stand and watch a boxing match.
Oh, even like the summertime, shit rains constantly. Like that's always gonna be a concern. Like the rain alone is always gonna be a concern in the UK.
Who would want to live in a place like that? Seriously.
You know what? I will say this:
greatest country on earth.
If I had to pick, if I was like super rich, and could have like a summer home somewhere, there are two countries I would have those summer homes, either Italy or Ireland, which is close enough to the UK where I count it. It's the same environment, climate.
Nowhere cold, like Sicily for sure. And then like just an island, Hawaii. That's part of the United States, or like the Fiji, like somewhere my own island where no one could bother me.
No, I can't wear shorts and sandals all day, man. I need sweats and a sweater.
Which because you live in Southern California. I mean, today you're not, but you always.
I took my sweater off to put the Kobe jersey on.
Okay.
I have respect.
If it's under 50 degrees, there's no need for that. There's no need for cold.
You mean if it's above 50 degrees, there's no reason for a sweater and shit?
No. I'm saying if it's under 50, if it's under 50 degrees, there's no reason for that place to exist. Like we don't need that place. I'm never going there, right? Like, like people who are like snowbirds and stuff. Like I used to go skiing. Never again. I can't do the cold.
Never again. Moving on. Also in the news, Joshua Pulev talks continue as deal and deadline draws. Nia writes Jake Dom, and I also think Dan Rayfield had a report also, I think it was yesterday, about this. I mean, yeah, same old. Joshua Pulev talks are happening. Deadlines coming, up. Blah, 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 blah. This fight's happening. I just think that they're, arguing about pennies and little tiny shit. Let's be honest.
Just like Campbell Fortuna. They had their extensions, and now the fight's made.
Mm-hmm.
Gary, rest easy.
Let's talk about a fight that is not official, but I'm going to count as official because it's Mike Coppinger official. Sources from Mike Coppinger, Daniel Dubois, and Joyce have agreed to terms for a heavyweight clash April 18th at the O2 in London on pay-per-view in England. Likely ESPN Plus in the US. Two undefeated big men, both from England, blah, 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 blah. Guys, thoughts on this really great matchup in the heavyweight division? Thoughts on it being on pay-per-view in the UK? I know that probably will have some effect or upset some of the UK fandom.
Yeah, that's the only standout part of that tweet. Obviously the matchup being made is great fight. But you're asking two of the most boring boxing individuals to put together.
Hey, Terrence Crawford's upset right now. He's in that conversation.
Yeah, he's just been bumped in the pound for pound most boring boxers down. He's probably in the same level as he is in actual fighting pound for pound list. But these two guys trying to make
3 and 4, somewhere around there.
Yeah, around there. Gary don't like that.
Terrence Crawford boring. Name a boring Terrence Crawford fight.
No, not fight.
Person.
Oh,
talking about selling pay-per-view. Your fight style can only do so much to sell pay-per-view. That's the unfortunate truth to the matter. Is what Rob's alluding to.
Gary, you to try and get those two guys to sell a pay-per-view, holy shit, going to be difficult. I don't think they're particularly great draws. Anyway,
was the quick question, the Gorman fight, assuming that was just on regular like BT Sports or something like that?
Yeah.
Any idea what the viewership was for that? Do you remember?
No, BT aren't part of.
Damn it!
So I can't help you there. But
that's
if you ask Frank Warren, he done really well. And if you ask Eddie, he didn't. But yeah, Gary, you talk about it, and I'm going to send Matt something to play.
We shift goalposts there and topic. You wanted me to talk about what topic did you ask the question about? What
Dubois,
Gorman. Okay, I don't know how
Dubois,
we got
Joyce pay-per-view.
Dubois Joyce pay-per-view. Yeah, again, I want to see this fight because I want to see Dubois fight better competition because I want to see Dubois fighting for a world title. I said by next year, by 2021. So yeah, this is the right step. So fight Joyce and then fight someone good after that. Fight Povetkin after that. Well, I guess that they wouldn't make that because that's the Eddie Hearns side. But I don't know what they have over there. But keep going. Right? Fight 3 times this year, at least. I guess.
Give me Joe Miller. Give me Joe Miller after Joe Joyce, please.
They're gonna drain so much money out of Jarrell Miller. They're not gonna put him in with Dubois yet because he'll get destroyed.
I know, but like if I'm like his manager, I want a Joe Miller fight after Joe Joyce. Like that gets you towards a title shot.
If
Really
Tyson
fast.
Fury wins, their end game is Gerald Miller versus Tyson Fury in the Garden, right? So I mean, they're not gonna have him get destroyed by Dubois.
No, I understand, Gary. I'm saying what I want, not what's realistic.
I would love that too. I would.
Brian Jennings is more realistic.
Bingo. That's who you'll get.
Joey DeWalco is more realistic.
How's the system doing right now, Matt? Are we good? Can you play the video I just sent to the topics?
Is it just a video or is it? Ooh.
No, I think that's a good year. If Dubois fought Joe Joyce, Brian Jennings, and Joey DeWarco this year, then I think he's in line to get a title shot to fight for a world title by the end of 2021. I think that's the projection he should be taking.
Yeah, he's like number 3 with the WBO right now. He's WBC silver title off the back of the Fujimoto win.
Rob, if you want, pull up on your computer and play it because the sound coming just fine. I think.
All right, I'll find it myself then on my computer.
I'll talk as you
do that.
I think this matchup makes a lot of sense. As Gary said, it's obviously a step up for Daniel Dubois in the right direction. Joe Joyce just defeating. Okay, who was his last fight? It wasn't Brian Jennings. That wasn't his last fight. That was the fight before that, right? Or was that his last fight?
Yeah, was it Brian Jennings? Maybe
Was that his last fight? I feel like he had one after that.
I thought so too.
Regardless, Joe Joyce clearly higher rank than Dubois, but Dubois has so much more potential than him. On eye test alone, I rank him above Joe Joyce. But he needs to prove it, as I often say. You need to prove it as a prospect. And beating Nathan Gorman, another good prospect, is a good win, but you need to beat someone a little more established and solidified in terms of where they rank. And Joe Joyce is a little more solidified with that Brian Jennings win, in my opinion. Plus, I think this is a good domestic fight. I know, like Rob, it's pay-per-view, so the argument does shift to them trying to sell pay-per-view and them probably not being able to do that as much. However, I will say this. I think this does probably better numbers than the Warrington-Frampton card in terms of pay-per-view numbers, just because they're heavyweights, I'm guessing. I think, like, I've always been a believer that casuals do. They love heavyweights. Like, they're like the heavyweight division can be trash, and they will love it and give it more slack because it's heavyweights. The casuals will. And I do think Dubois, while he is kind of boring person in interviews, he is a monster in terms of in the ring. The highlight reel package they could put together, I feel like would be amazing for these two. I could see it doing decent numbers, 200,000, 150,000 pay-per-view buys, and that be decent for them.
Sorry, they could do Joyce slow motion, but not have to slow it down.
That they could do that. Yes, that's absolutely true. Great joke there, Rob.
Thanks, man.
I think this does around 200,000 pay-per-view buys. I think that's a decent number for them at what they're looking at. I just think that Dubois is one of those guys. He needs to beat an AJ to become the icon that I think Frank Warren wants him to be, because he can't just materialize that out of his own like AJ did. AJ materialized persona and charisma and star power just out of himself. Like, he just did that in the amateurs and when he transitioned to the pros. He just was a star. Dubois isn't that. So you have to manufacture that with certain fights, with certain wins. And Joe Joyce is a way to get those fights and those wins. It's not one that will make him a star, though.
How do I do this?
Press play.
Yeah, but share screen?
No, you shouldn't have to do that.
Oh, okay. Let me just get it ready.
Like, if you click play on it, it should work.
Potentially, I'm going to speak to and use.
What are you rewinding it? What are you doing?
What's that? And I need to land it right, and then there you saw it. Good night.
And Joe's going to knock him out next year. Who's?
I'm on. Potentially.
It's just highlights from them having interviews. It was like
I got it at first, but then like the second half, it kind of got off the So I was like, okay, is it trying to?
Yeah, the levels weren't great. It wasn't.
I like
yeah, that's basically it. It was billed as the Joe Joyce Daniel Dubois press conference.
I'm so glad I did not pull that up and fuck up our system. in our live stream.
It's fine, but yeah, no. Even Sam Jones is like, yeah, this has tickled me. To be fair, like Joyce's manager. But yeah, no, look, really good fight. Shout out to the guys. I mean, again, Frank Warren. It's not like he hasn't got the greatest stable, as in I can put all these young guys against each other, because he's only really got. Well, he hasn't really got Tyson Fury anymore. Let's be honest. But Dubois, Gorman, Joyce. I think there's another guy recently signed, but as far as like in-house fights, he's done one already. And shout out to those guys. They, young guys on the come up. They met each other now. Does the O really matter if it goes? No, it's not a big deal. But yeah, Joyce, I guess, pushing on a little bit now. He's kind of got to do something. So a win over Dubois, this highly touted, prospect / I guess contender now with a number 3 ranking with the WBO. But yeah, the pay-per-view thing is maybe. I mean, I like it. I'll be buying it. I want to see the fight. But yeah, that's maybe a little stretch. I think these guys have got like a super following,
Do we think we get maybe like to add some depth to the card, maybe like a Jamel Herring, Carl Frampton fight attached to it?
I don't think so. I think that's going to be a
own thing
in Ireland. I think that's going to end up in Belfast somewhere.
I'm trying to think of like something else to add to that card for some depth.
There's
not a lot.
Liam Williams, get a Liam Williams in a good fight, like a top. That would be a
you could do
the card, I think, because he's recently
Rob Rant, Liam Williams. Hey, I'm excited for that. That's a good
shout
fight.
out Liam Williams, just made number 10 on the Ring Magazine's top 10.
They should just consolidate those two cards and make Jamel Herring, Carl Frampton.
But well,
it would be awesome as a consumer, I bet, for you guys though. But
obviously, if it's a pay-per-view, I want the best card possible. I know that's generally not the case. I don't know what kind of money it's taken to get Dubois and Joyce into the ring together. So Frank Warren's.
You picked Dubois, obviously, Rob, right?
I do, but not in the same fashion as a lot of people over here are saying. Like, oh yeah, obviously Dubois knocks him out like clean.
Not like me, right? Where I'm like Dubois wins this with like 6 or 7.
I said 3.
I think Joyce is made out of pure concrete, and I think he's going to be a tough guy to get rid of. I can see this going decision.
Dubois a jackhammer though. It doesn't fucking matter.
He didn't stop Kevin Johnson, did he?
Kevin Johnson's a far more established and proven fighter in the heavyweight division, long term, historically speaking, than Joe Joyce.
Except everyone else is stopping him.
Professionals who can survive. Like, okay, Kevin Johnson went the distance with him? Is that
yes?
How old is he?
Old. He's old.
What's the name of the guy with the weird name that went 11 rounds with Wilder and he went the distance with Jarrell Miller? Like, what is his name?
Dubois.
Like, okay, some guys just can survive. Like, I mean, if that's the best you can do is I lost every round, but I survived. Okay, I don't know what that's worth. Like, do you think Joe Joyce is going to go in there looking to survive, or do you think he's going to go in there to try to win the fight?
I just think he's a super tough guy. I just don't think he's going to get him out of there. That's all.
What kind of question is that, Gary? Of course they're going to try to win and not survive. Joe Joyce is undefeated Olympic silver medalist.
That was
my young pup.
And he's going to get iced because if he went in there strictly survival mode, okay, maybe, right? But if you're going in there to win, you're going to get iced. The guy is drastically better than you. Like, okay, it's like playing Kobe one-on-one. You're going to beat him? Of course you're not going to beat him. He's better than you, right? Like,
I can argue against that. That's fact. That's not even like
come on.
Okay.
Also, you get knocked out in basketball, or you survive in basketball. Do you know what I mean?
With Kobe, that's true, Rob.
All right.
Nizzy Kid remix in the chat saying Anthony Yard would be in a big fight on that card. Anthony Yard comeback fight is going to happen sooner rather than later. I would not be surprised to see it on that card.
Is an Anthony Yard comeback fight a big fight on that card?
I care as a boxing fan. Not talking about casuals here, right? Because that's a different conversation, right? Talking about just pure as a consumer out of that card. I care about what Anthony Yarde does going forward.
Yeah, I want to see him again, but just the framing of the message in a big fight on that card. Is his comeback going to be in a big fight?
No. He's not saying that the Yarde fight will be a big fight. He's saying Yarde is going to be in a tough fight or a big fight. I think that's what he's trying to say. Like you put Anthony Yarde up against Sullivan Barrera, like that's a big fight for him on a comeback fight. I would say. Not in the context or the connotation of selling pay-per-view. No. That's not what we're talking about here.
Oh,
in the context of for Anthony Yarde's career, coming back and fighting against Sullivan Barrera, a type like that on this card, that would be a big fight for him. And it would add depth for us as a hardcore consumer.
Fair enough.
I would like that.
It's understood.
And also I'm trying to think of other names to be on the card, but keep forgetting names. Frank Warren, stable, not that deep. Any other thoughts on this topic, guys? We want to move on.
Joe Joyce might be like Dominic Brazil, where like he's not as bad as I think he is, but he ain't good either, right? Like when I said talking about Dominic Brazil in the top 20, like, no.
Yep, Joe Joyce beats Dominic Brazil. Moving on. Javier Fortuna and Luke Campbell have reached a deal for the WBC, air quotes, lightweight title fight and avoided a purse bid. So Gary, don't worry, man. There's no purse bid here. They've reached a deal.
Good.
Are you happy now that they have all those purse bid extensions?
Sure. I guess, if this happened without me knowing, I wouldn't have cared. Good, they reached the deal. But, like, why was this so difficult? Like, why wasn't this done in a half-hour conversation? Fortuna, you're getting a title shot. Do you want it? Here's what you're getting paid. Okay.
You need to stop acting like Luke Campbell's a fucking A-side compared to Fortuna. He's not, dog. What are you smoking?
I don't know. I mean, you not okay.
Luke Campbell is not a star. He's not a draw. He's, I think, headline one card in the last 5 years, maybe 2 cards with the Linares fight. Sorry, yeah, two cards. He's headlined 2 cards in the last 5 years. He was the B side too, and they both were kind of like middling cards.
But then it's on a Joshua card. Like the Ivan Mendy card was on a Joshua card. So it's like you're fighting on the undercard, but you're fighting on the undercard in the co-main of a huge fight.
So who was on the undercard of Manny Pacquiao, Jesse Vargas? You can't remember it, can you?
No Texans, obviously.
No.
Who was on the undercard of Floyd Mayweather versus Miguel Cotto?
I remember Lomachenko was on the undercard of the Pacquiao fight. On Miguel, I don't remember.
See, like, come on, man. Like, okay. In context of like being an A side in that shit, Luke Campbell isn't that. This was an even 50-50 fight on paper in terms of who wins, and B, also who has the drawing power. Also, you have PBC versus Matchroom. You have presumably Fox versus DAZN in this negotiation room. Of course, it's going to take some time.
Do you want my theory on this?
Gary,
you ready? Are you ready for this?
Oh god, it's gonna be some bullshit. I can already tell.
No. Listen.
The way you're smirking.
No. It's just a conspiracy theory. Where do we think the fight won in the purse bid for Josh Taylor versus the Samson fighter was won by Samson Promotions or whatever they're called, Samson Boxing, not Top Rank. And he wants to put that fight on in the UK. Now, has he got a UK promoter's license? Is Samson Boxing going to come over and put on a PBC card somewhere in the UK? Or is this going to land on maybe a Matchroom card? So let's just wait and see on this purse bid. Let's ask for extension. Let's sort out a deal. Eddie, you can have the Campbell fight, and we want a slot on a show for the Josh Taylor Kong Song mandatory fight. Let's just wonder if that was all being ironed out and it just happened to make this Campbell fight, I don't know, drag on a little bit trying to make it, or they were waiting on, making that deal. I don't know. It's just, is Samson going to put on a PBC card in the UK? I don't know if that's going to be a thing, right?
You could. You could you could just use God, name some more regional promotions for the UK. Like obviously, I know it's like Cyclone Promotions, but like what other?
Yeah,
you can't use that one. Obviously, like, what other ones are around?
yeah, there are. I'm off the top of my head.
And I bet, honestly speaking, if it's PBC, you could maybe work with like a Frank Warren to a degree, or even Eddie Hearn. I mean, like these are all entities that do work together for the sake of it when they have to, and I could see them doing it. Maybe they work with like Haymaker Promotions with like David Hay. You know, like I could see them. You know, that one off, it doesn't matter. They just want Josh Taylor in Glasgow. It doesn't matter who's really promoting it because it's Josh Taylor in Glasgow. And you having your guy hopefully beating him in front of his fans. And that's all you're caring about, right? Like you're not really thinking big picture with this fight because A, you probably already spent too much money on it because the purse bid was $3 or $4 million.
1.3, yeah. Josh Taylor's getting about $850.
How are you connecting to this though? I didn't understand that
the details of like we're going to go in heavy for the Josh Taylor fight, Eddie. We need to know if we're going to win that. Is there a show we can get the Taylor fight on? I just wonder if there's a lot of mechanics behind weight, and waiting. And both guys requesting extensions for the Campbell fight while they're trying to sort out details of where this Taylor fight can land or something like that. That was all. It's just got me thinking, like, what's this card going to be? How's this going to come together? And whether, is he going to work with Eddie Hearn to put this fight on for Josh Taylor, the Josh Taylor fight somewhere? That was all.
I can see them in terms of it's probably not Eddie Hearn. It's probably Frank Warren because Josh Taylor's a top ranked fighter. That's why I said Frank Warren first.
Yeah,
there's that unspoken relationship between Bob Arum and Frank Warren right now.
That's the thing. I spoke to like Cobb, and he's like exclusive. Taylor's exclusive to ESPN, so it may have to be a Warren because they've got the connection with ESPN Plus. So I don't know, but
and maybe
or is
because Samson Boxing is not exclusively a PBC promoter because that would be illegal.
Yeah,
this could just be an ESPN Plus fight that's with Frank Warren and Samson's Boxing. And kind of Top Rank be cut out of the conversation, at least from a controlling perspective. They still be involved. They still make money off of the event, obviously, because they are the promoter of Josh Taylor. But the controlling factor of the card be taken away and be given to Samson and Frank Warren because they want the fight in the UK. That's what I'm guessing with that. But anyways, any other thoughts on Fortuna Campbell, guys?
No, I'm just glad it's across the line, and we'll see where this lands. I guess it'll be. I'm gonna say I guess it's going to be here, but I don't know. Eddie Hearn now apparently in his latest IFL has said that Dillian White's fight might be in the US regardless if it's Rivas or not.
I wouldn't assume any Eddie Hearn fighter is fighting in the UK going forward. I would not assume that at all.
No, it's become a bit of a oh cool, can't wait to go to that. Oh, it's in fucking Ohio or some shit.
See what make a deal with the devil.
I like how you called his own the devil.
Yeah, but the devil's more fun than the angel.
More Cuban.
But we're glad. We all think this is a fun fight in the ring, right?
Just gonna Google that. I'll be back.
Type in Yakubian Devils.
And I looked it up as soon as you said it, and it hit me. Like I remember the fight, the undercard, the co-main of Mayweather Cotto.
Hold on, because I know Rob's gonna actually struggle Googling this, and this is gonna be funny for people that maybe don't know this. Type in Yakub, so just I think it's spelled Yakuub. I think that's how you spell it. It's like it's a mythological tale. It's hilarious.
I'm all right.
Like like Black Israelites, like those like crazy people on sidewalks that yell at white people in Brooklyn. They believe this shit. It's hilarious. But digressing. What were we on? Are we still on Fortuna or do we move off that?
No, we're done.
We're done. Okay, let's move off that. Fuck that. We take time. We gotta move on. Mauricio Sulaiman breaking the news. TGP Promotions has won the rights to promote Nordino Bali versus Nonito Donaire with the bid of $401,000 for the WBC bantamweight title. Obviously, first off, glad this fight's made. It's a great fight. Maybe not the fight I would have made for Nonito Donaire coming off the loss, though, because I think like any fight against top 5 guys off of that type of performance and a loss, just a tough ask for anyone.
This is a perfect fight to come back to.
Maybe it is. I mean, if he wins, it is. But if he doesn't, it would be, you just took on a really tough guy, come off a loss, and a fight of the year performance. Maybe that wasn't the smartest decision. But it's sad that this got won by just a bid of $401,000 that they're going to split. I mean, that makes what O'Bali's going to win. He's going to make what? Oh, because the WBC. Hold on, I forgot this aspect to it. Sorry. Mr. Suleiman saying WBC rules for a purse bid has 10% of the bid set aside as a bonus for the winner of the fight. This innovation gives greater incentive for both fighters to win the fight. So whoever's going to win gets a 60-40 split. I mean, so you're making what? $280,000, something like that?
No, less than 250.
Oh, less than 250?
Yeah. Donaire's getting about 160.
Oh, man. And it's a tough fight. I'm like, this. It's,
for who?
For both guys, I think. Rob, you're tripping. I know you think this is an easy fight for Donaire. It isn't. It's not an easy fight for Donaire.
I'm picking Donaire right here, right now.
I know you are. I know you are.
Knockout within 6 rounds.
This fight in terms of payout makes sense if it was 2014. But it's 2020, and in the age of everyone making money, they didn't in this fight, and that's kind of weird. I get it, but it's kind of weird. Thoughts, guys, on O'Bali, Donaire pretty much being done, purse bid done, PBC winning it, obviously TGB Promotions winning it as well. So thoughts on where this could end up, and thoughts on obviously the overall payout that both guys are going to get. Gary,
I thought like what you did. There's okay, normal purses again, right? Like the guy that makes $50,000 can't buy the $1 million house anymore. But we're back to normal purses. But then something else told me, okay, the fight's not going to happen then. Like it's a reasonable purse, like 200-ish thousand for each fighter in a 118-pound scrap. Yeah, I mean that's kind of what it is, right? But now I just don't think the fight will happen. I think both guys will look to go other avenues, more lucrative options. I think, and maybe they can find them, especially Donaire. Like, I think Donaire, based off his last performance, can get a bigger money fight than that.
Maybe. I don't know. Rob?
I think Donaire takes the bout and then unifies with to make it be undisputed with Inoue Part 2. I'm down for that. That's what I'm going with, because I think Inoue beats
Casamora.
Yeah, Casamora, which is apparently Inoue's done deal for Vegas.
April.
Capitalize on that Japanese Vegas market. And then
why is that fight not in LA or New York? I don't understand.
Or Japan.
That too. But I mean, there's Japanese.
Yeah.
There's Japanese.
Yeah.
Demographics in LA significantly. Or overall,
Japantown, right? Japantown.
There's no Japantown. We have a little Saigon in Chinatown. But I mean, the Japanese population's giant in LA. Same like the Korean population in LA is giant. So.
Yeah. So I'd imagine that would be, hell of a schedule. Shout out to Top Rank if they get Inoue to unify again and then go undisputed against Donaire in a repeat of what was considered fight of the year for many people. So, yeah, I don't see them walking away from this fight. Well, not. I don't think Donaire will. You have a chance to be a world champion again.
Now, I'm curious because you laid out a plan that I think Top Rank definitely has, right? That they want to bring back Inoue Donaire Part 2 on ESPN later down this year. Gary, to bring you back in the conversation, because you're in the US, obviously you have ESPN, so like you know this conversation a little more than Rob. Is that a actual realistic path to make Inoue a global superstar, to have that Donaire rematch on ESPN, put it in Vegas, New York, LA, and give it the push that maybe it probably wouldn't have gotten 10 years ago? But in this new paradigm, you have the money, you can afford to do it. Is that a realistic path to get Inoue to global superstardom. To frame the conversation better for maybe those that are listening, because the first fight was on DAZN, and that's a very limited audience base. It just is, guys. Let's be honest about it. Let alone,
and it was like 3 a.m. in the morning, right?
Yes, it was at a ungodly hour. It was for the hardcore of the hardcores. You put that in LA or New York on ESPN, not ESPN Plus, ESPN. Could Inoue Donaire 2 propel Inoue to superstardom? Or to his version of that, whatever that may look like?
Say yes, Gary, because that's the right answer.
I don't know if it's the right answer. It may not be. It's just a question.
I just looked it up. 110,000 Japanese in LA at 2017.
I feel like we did this before with Rigo and Donaire, and neither of them became a super. Like,
but that was Rigo, a guy that had a very defensive-minded style, and on top of that, let's be honest, Gary, they didn't give Rigo the push. Imagine if Bob Arum post that fight said that was the best boxing display we have seen since Ali. He's a mastermind technician. Oh my God, Regan Dow is the greatest Cuban boxer of all time, and they pushed him on HBO. Imagine what we've done. Imagine what Rigo would look like now.
I think they were putting their chips in that Donaire, because Donaire was icing everybody. I think they were thinking Donaire was going to stop him.
Yes, they were.
And that didn't happen. It was actually not a terrible fight. Donaire came back late and scored the knockdown and tried to get back in the fight. But like, I just don't know if 118 pounders are ever going to be stars. Like, I think like there's not an appetite for it in America. Like there is in Japan, there is in the Philippines, maybe there is in Mexico. Like because Donaire had everything you'd want in a superstar when he was coming up on HBO, when he was making his run. And it was like, it doesn't translate to people outside of the Filipino boxing fan and the hardcore. Like,
I disagree with that slightly for two reasons.
You're right.
I think the Donaire Rigo comparison is just a shit comparison for this fight, because ESPN is co-promoting Inoue. They were not co-promoting Rigo. Like, it's automatically a false start in comparison for that reason alone. I think everyone is smart enough to understand why it's a bad comparison for that reason alone. But for your point about the division being too low, I mean, that's always been a talking point. But just for argument's sake, and this is a weird argument to make, and follow me here. But in the UFC, obviously for men's 125, that was the lowest they've gone, is 125 pounds. They have not been successful there at all in building that into be a star power division, right? But for women at 115, they have made that into a hotbed for women's MMA and created a real star power out of Yana Jędrzejczyk, Paige Van Zandt, Rose Namajunas. They created stars in that 115-pound division that's also women fighting. So, I mean, look, we're talking about combat sports, the truly sexist environment here. You telling me that the UFC was able to make 115-pound women stars and headline pay-per-views, but 115-pound men can't? No, come on, this is boxing. This shouldn't work that way. Like, this is combat sports. It should work the opposite way, because that's just how sexist this industry is. But it didn't work there. I mean, it did work there in the UFC. I think it's possible. I think if you have, look, it's going to cost money. Like, marketing, PR budget is going to be high, but you have to push Inoue like you did Loma. And on top of that, get him wins against guys like Donaire again in a rematch on ESPN, because the Filipino market in America is a massive buying market in boxing. Not to the same way, but similar to like how Pacquiao endeared himself to the Mexican fan base, right? And Mexican Americans became Pacquiao fans. You endear Inoue to the Filipino American market through Donaire. Maybe even hell, you somehow, even though the relationship isn't there anymore, you get Inoue with Pacquiao training once. Get a few pictures of that. There's a path to connecting a overall Asian American market in America and make them become a fan of Inoue. K-pop is massive in America. You tell me that Inoue can't be a massive person inside that market, a market that I don't know shit about, but I know K-pop, Korean pop, is massive across all of Asian American demographics, not just Koreans. So I think it's absolutely possible to get Inoue to superstardom or to his version of that, not Pacquiao or Mayweather's version of that, but Inoue's version of that. Absolutely. Bigger than Lomachenko. Absolutely. It's just going to take something, and it's going to take them pushing it. And I honestly believe that it is possible. Like I never before thought you could make Inoue a superstar. But as I'm talking about, as Rob presented the thought process for probably Top Rank to make that Donaire rematch, it clicked. It is possible. I can see why they thought we can make Inoue a U.S. star or a global superstar. It's possible. It's hard. It's not guaranteed, but it's 100% possible. Just like AJ Fury making $150 million each in the UK. That's possible. You got to find a way. There's plenty of investors in the UK that would put money into that. Don't tell me there's not billionaires in the UK that put money down to, be a part of that. Don't tell me that, Eddie. So back to you, Gary. Sorry. I know I ranted for a second.
We're talking about a location of the fight. All right. To me, it's a West Coast fight. LA, it was probably where they would put it. But I also, Donaire's from the Bay Area. Right? I don't know. I mean, is there a big Japanese population in the Bay Area? I would think so.
I would assume so, because Angel Island was the main hub for most immigrants to the West Coast. And plus, Gary, I don't know if you know this, but the Bay Area is also the West Coast. So,
no, I was saying, but when you say, okay, automatically going to put it in LA, but I was thinking, like, since Donaire is from San Francisco or Oakland or that area, the Bay Area, could that be a home for the fight?
You could. I've always thought for boxing, LA is better than the Bay, San Francisco, Oakland, because the media in LA is just automatically there. It's not in San Francisco. Secondly, you have just a higher population in LA comparative to the Bay Area. I would also maybe make this argument, maybe a wrong argument to make in terms of factual. I just don't know, but just my perception. In the Bay Area, especially San Francisco, not Oakland, but especially San Francisco, it's a highly affluent area. And I don't see a bunch of white collar, tech company people being boxing fans comparative to largely Mexican American, Asian American demographics in LA.
But Ward's done okay there, right? I mean, Ward's fights did okay in.
Define okay.
I don't remember. I mean, they do
the Paul Smith fight that was in Oakland on BET.
Yeah.
From my recollection, did not do that well. I had just started coming to the sport when that happened, so I mean, God, I don't really remember that well, but I don't remember it selling well. I don't remember the TV viewership being well at all.
He also fought Kessler in Oakland, didn't he?
Yes, I don't remember.
But he was. I mean, he was not really known at that point. That was his coming out part. He was supposed to lose that fight.
The Bay has never really been a boxing town. It's unfortunate, but that's just the God honest truth. It's sort of like, in a weird way, like Boston has never really been a boxing town, like New York or Jersey or Atlantic City, right? Like, we still have fights in Boston. You still have boxers coming out of Boston, but it's not a fight town like New York is, or even New Jersey is, or like Newark is in New Jersey, or Atlantic City is in New Jersey. It's not the same. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's my perception of it.
It's absolutely, yeah, it absolutely is true. Yeah. So I guess the fight would make the most sense in LA. So which means they'll put it in Maryland, right? Because it makes no sense there. But I mean, to me, it's a West Coast fight. So I guess if you're saying like the market for that fight isn't in the Bay Area, then it would be LA. I would put the fight in LA. Again, I hope you're right. I hope that Inoue becomes a star. A, because he's great and deserves to be a star. B, because he's fun to watch. And C, because it would put more small weight class boxing on TV, which I'm a fan of, right? Like, if you gave fans Inoue, they would like him. But, like, for whatever reason, the American fan basically doesn't get behind these really small weight classes. And I hope Inoue is the guy, the knockout artist that can change that. Maybe he is. It's just, I've seen so many small guys who are great never become stars.
Agreed. Quickly, we're going to run down these topics because it's late. I understand, Rob. I'm sorry. But this is the last show of the week. I didn't tell you guys this, but I'm going to be out of town till Saturday. So I know. I'm sorry. No Andrade Keeler reaction show. No Ugas Mike Dallas reaction show. I apologize, people. I'm sorry. But I know, especially the Andrade Keeler card, because Ramon fight, the 10 farm fight. I definitely want to do a show on that, but I'm not going to be in town, guys. Apologies. Got other stuff going on. So this is the last show. So I do want to get to everything we can before we get out of here. So I'm going to run down these last topics. Josh Taylor spending time in Adam Booth in the gym with Adam Booth today. He was also with Ben Davison last week. Guys, quick thoughts on Josh Taylor and who he's most likely to link up with for his next trainer. Just quick thoughts, quick reactions. We're not going to belabor this.
I think he'll end up choosing Adam Booth personally. Brand new gym all kitted out, I think, or it's just finished construction. Yeah, I think he's got Josh Kelly to work with. I think it'd be great for Josh Kelly if there's a Josh Taylor in camp. Yeah,
get the Joshes uniting.
Yeah, Josh squared.
Brook too in the gym. I mean, let's be honest. Like I would prefer.
What'd you say?
Plus, you have Kel Brook in the gym.
Not Adam Booth.
Oh, I thought you. Sorry, what did you say?
Dominic Ingle.
Oh, sorry. I don't know why I'm getting in my head right now. Never mind then. But yeah, I think overall you find better sparring with Adam Booth than Ben Davison, and that probably be my reason to why I'd pick Adam Booth over Ben Davison. Even though Ben Davison has a great style of training, I think he's a good coach. I just think he doesn't have a lot of fighters for Josh Taylor to spar that are high level.
Yeah,
Gary.
I'm going to default to Rob. Yeah. This is Rob's. So I'm gonna put my trust in Rob.
I agree. That's why I agree with
you
Rob.
Watch him go and get, I don't know, with some American trainer because he signed an American contract, but maybe he's just getting some work in while he's
Freddie Roach.
Yeah, Freddie Roach. I mean, that'd be great, right?
Jeff Horn, Tim Zoo haggle over rematch clause and fight length. So it looks like that fight may not happen in Australia. Guys, thoughts on this big major regional fight maybe not happening?
I was into this fight. I hope they get it figured out.
I agree. I really like this matchup. I think it makes a lot of sense. Rob?
Yeah, they'll sort it out, I'm sure. What else is there?
Showtime Boxing last weekend peaked at 463,000 viewers. I forget what the average was. I think it was like 400 and something, like a low 400. But Carr did mediocre numbers. Not too shocking there. I don't think anyone really needs to talk about that. But I do want to briefly address before we head over, Rob. I know we've talked about it a little bit, and I know you want to head over, but I think that's important for us to maybe discuss in more detail, at least before we head out. The Lou DiBella interview with IFL TV. This was, I implore everyone to watch this interview because, for one, I think the title to it is really, it does a disservice to what this interview discusses and covers. The fact that this headline is just a clickbait title of, I don't see you guys asking these questions of Eddie Hearn, when that was, in my opinion, the least material thing that he discussed in this interview. But let's listen to a small clip from the interview, because, again, we're not going to listen to all 29 minutes of it, but I implore everyone to go and watch this interview, because Lou DiBella lays some gems out here.
Okay, but I'll point to Sergey Derevchenko, where he had the fight with Triple G. I thought he won the fight. It was the best fight I saw last year. It was an all-time great fight, and I haven't had one offer yet from anybody in the entire universe, from ESPN Top Rank to DAZN, to Eddie, to Golden Boy, to Al Heyman and PBC. Not one offer has been made yet to Sergey for his next fight. Okay, so. I mean, his manager has been a gentleman with me, and the kid has allowed me to attempt to get opportunities for him. He fought that fight, and there's not one offer for his services. I wonder how quickly that changes if and when it gets announced that I couldn't deliver for him and he's going directly to somebody. That's not the way it's supposed to work, particularly not for a guy that gave 30 years in the business and is going to the Hall of Fame.
He talks a lot about the anti-competitiveness of the current market, how the market's now, you either are working with Eddie / DAZN being more of an umbrella term we're going to use here to include Golden Boy, right? PBC and ESPN Top Rank. And I think he's largely right there. I think the things he says about how difficult it is for a independent promoter from those entities to work within the industry to make the best fights for his fighter is a significant issue we need to talk about more as a media, as fans. On top of it, the issues of how to describe it, because he talked about a lot here. The issue of media culpability when it comes to how we discuss news when we are aligned with certain entities, promoters, networks, a la Chris Mannix, a la Mike Coppinger, a la Marcos Villegas, a bunch of people that do work with networks and promoters, and that plays into how you report. That's just absolutely true. One thing I wish Lou delved more into was, because he talked more from a promoting standpoint onto how the current industry has issues. And I think he's absolutely right in sort of diagnosing those issues. But he failed, in my opinion, to also lay out the angle of where the sanctioning bodies come in. The difference in how networks and promoters are at fault for the current climate, because there are differences in how promoters and networks have played into this current climate. But I just think this is a conversation that people need to have more, because this current industry that we have right now is one that is not healthy. And even though there's a lot of money being thrown around, does not make it so. And he talks a lot about the lack of people having foresight, looking long-term for the sport, thinking just short-term money grabs. And that is a significant issue. And how people are not focused on the best find the best, because the networks are not focused on the best find the best. They don't care about that. They're just giving a war chest to people and telling them to go make fights. And people want to nickel and dime everything. Guys, thoughts on this Lou DiBella interview before we head out of here? Because it's going to be the last thing we discuss on this show. Gary, Rob?
First, I'm shocked. When Lou DiBella said he's still in his 50s, I thought the guy was like 70. He looks awful for his age. But that aside, what he said about Derevyanchenko is like a disaster. It's everything that's wrong with boxing. He's a guy that beat Triple G. Like, why does no one want to offer him? And no quotes. Like, we all saw the fight. Like, there was no controversy in the fight. We all know Derevyanchenko won the fight. There's no controversy. It wasn't controversial. Derevyanchenko won.
That's your point.
And that's a shame, right? Here's a guy that should, like, if he doesn't go straight into a title fight, here's a guy that should be in big negotiations for another big fight, a Murata, something like that. Rob Brand, let him go fight someone like that. But like, there's no call at all for Derevyanchenko, who gives you nothing but fun fights and just beat Triple G. That's rough. I mean, it doesn't project well for the sport as a whole.
I agree. Rob?
Yeah, I mean, Lou's always spiky, right, in conversations, but he kind of really bit back at the interviewer on this one, and
he's frustrated.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the guy wasn't taking any offense to it. He sort of handled it well. He's sort of like, you ask straight questions, you're going to get straight answers, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. I'm enjoying it. He's like,
I think Lou is extremely frustrated with the industry.
Yeah,
and I've had conversations with him.
Shut out. I think he feels he's being shut out.
Yeah,
he mentioned like what we kind of all suspected. I think he's mentioned before, but like he arranged the DAZN sit down for Deontay, and that was it. That was the end of it. And he said, there's like Eddie going out trying to find the most money for his fighter. Pat on the back, everything's great. I do it. And he mentioned not long ago, like basically he's not doing anything with PBC at the moment. They're not calling him. He's being shut out from the Al Heyman kind of side of things. Steven Espinoza was on another show talking about, Lou hasn't phoned me about anything, this, that, and the other, or this fight or that fight. And I can understand Lou's frustrations, and yeah, he really let it out there today. I mean, the guy said the rumor is Regis Prograis only got one more fight left with you, and he's like, well, that's not true. That's not true. Then he kind of said, well, it is, but there's other, basically said there's an option clause or whatever. So, yeah, and he said, but the minute he goes somewhere else, that will be reported. But blah blah blah. He was really on one. But yeah, he made some points. It was an interesting interview, like you said. I definitely encourage people just to go and listen, go and watch it, because he's an animated character. He sort of wears his heart on his sleeve, and he'll say it straight.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was only like 5 or 6 F-bombs in this one. So he toned it down, even though he was a little bit, jittery. But yeah, it was a good interview and a good chat with Lou.
And for fans that are frustrated with the sport and how it currently is set up, I think Lou is speaking for you guys. I honestly believe that. Like, I've had issues with Lou DiBella. I've had disagreements with him, but I've also had a lot of personal conversations with him, and he is one of the few stand-up guys in this industry. And I can say that safely. Like, he's one of the few guys that I know, if I have a conversation with him, either publicly or non-public or privately, and we disagree, we can come to a common ground of, yeah, but we want the sport to be better. We just might want it to be better in different ways. I again, shout out to Lou DiBella. I feel like he gets a lot of shit from fans when he is one of the few people that I would even as a promoter would call somewhat trustworthy. Like, he's one of the few trustworthy executives in this industry. When he talks, I tend to listen more because I know he's not giving me the runaround. I know he's tired of that too. He's in the position of being an outsider and independent that he can't give you the runaround. He has to play up that side like we do, in a sense, right? Like, we don't get along with other podcasts, and therefore that we got to talk that way. I think Lou DiBella is sort of the same way. I respect that. But guys, that's going to be it for this show. It's been a long one. I know Rob's over there falling asleep, taking that NyQuil. But guys, hit the like button, share the show, subscribe, all that fun stuff, all that YouTube stuff. Patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio. Link is down below in the description. You know where to find it, guys. Come on. And what else? Yeah, no show for the rest of the week. Be back either Saturday night or Sunday normal time. I will probably let you guys know via our community tab on YouTube when or if we do a show, and not if, when we do a show, and what day it will be. You guys find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, on all social media platforms. Rob?
Yeah, UK Rob, MCR, Instagram and Twitter. Another one to encourage people to go and listen to. Go and listen to TKO podcast, the chat with Tommy Coyle, who's called it a day, hung his gloves up. Really emotional. He had a bet with Carl Frampton, who's also on the show, that I'm not going to cry. I've done all my crying in this last 6 months, making this hellish decision because I just want to fight. And he did get emotional in the end, and Frampton puts an arm around him and says, yeah, you owe me 50 quid now. And he's like, oh, fuck off. But it was really emotional. Just a little quick story. He said he won a certain fight. He had a £12,000 purse. Straight after the fight, he booked off, go to Vegas, blew all his money when he was there, come back, realized he had his medical bills to attend to, so he had to borrow £1,000 off his dad, even though he just got his 12,000 purse. But yeah, really sort of tugs on the heartstrings. He's like, and now it's over. And he just started welling up. He said boxing's been his best friend for 25 years, and he's just. Boxing wouldn't be nothing without the likes of the Tommy Coyles. We need Tommy Coyles of this world in this sport, because without them, there'd be nothing. But yeah, go and check it out. TKO podcast. It was really good. But yeah, catch you on the next one, Gary.
Rob, were you able to keep it together for the Coyle?
I was, mate. Yeah, I was. I just choking up a little bit, but I kept it.
Yeah, because that time he beat Sean Dodd and lost every other fight he ever was in. That was a lot. It's a lot.
I'm muting you, Gary, because you're just hating right now.
I'm not hating. Yeah, go check out that Luda Bell interview that Matt and Robert talking about. You can see that he's really a fan of the sport, and it's good to see, right? Like he wants what's best for the sport. Like he got into boxing for a reason, right? He's not in hockey. He's in boxing because he loves the sport, and that fan that got us all into the sport, that really comes out in that interview. Follow me on all forms social media at 3D Boxing Blog. Good show, guys. Lot to get into, but it was really good. Find me on all forms of 3D Boxing. From Texas to the world, thank you, and God bless.
Peace.